I went from working 70 hours a week and a job I hated to building a property portfolio in less than 2 years. That meant I could semi-retire at age 37 and work less than 5 hours a week. And the best part is I did the majority of this using other people's properties, so I didn't even need to own any property. Today, I'm going to show you step by step how I did this so you can repeat the same. But before we dive in, let me give you a bit of context around this strategy. I would rent properties like these from landlords, and then I would furnish them using 0% credit cards and turn them into this. And the best part is I would get bookings like this, which would more than cover the rent I paid to the landlords and my operational costs. I would then reinvest my profit into another setup to generate more profit each and every month. Within 7 months, I had acquired 21 properties, was banking 10 grand a month net profit. I quit my job and I became a full-time property investor. I now live in Dubai. I've built a multi-million-pound portfolio, have multiple businesses, and I am heavily invested in property. I don't say this to brag, I say this to inspire you to watch this entire video as I got started with a lot less knowledge, and if I can do it, so can you. The only thing I ask for sharing this content that most people sell for thousands is that you subscribe to the channel and share it with at least one person you know that will also benefit from it. If you have any questions as you are watching, pop them in the comments and I'll personally reply to them. Let's get started. So tonight is very much around the sort of deal finding process, which is the most important part of the whole piece of any business. You know, I say sales and marketing are the most fundamental keys of any business. Business websites, you know, your setups, your limited companies, your business cards, all a waste of time. Right now, all you want to be focused on is sales and marketing. Sales in our world is acquiring property. Okay, so whatever business you're in, sales and marketing should form around 90% of your activity, especially in the first 6 to 12 months, because without it, you haven't got a business, you know, so we need to get going. And in our world, that means we need to pick up properties that we can use for cash flow. And we can kind of do that in a load of ways that we can do. In the chat, please just let me know whether you are looking to get into this on a creative strategy such as rent to rent, or whether you're actually looking to buy properties to then use as serviced accommodation in the next 6 months. And again, that'll just give me a bit of the feel for where we're going to take things tonight. So we have buy to SA, cool, build to SA, brilliant, rent to rent, MBR, yep, great. SA first, rent to rent. Okay, cool. So a good mix. Okay, that's great. We can certainly talk about everything. So the fundamentals of serviced accommodation, and you know, this is kind of what we're going to go through tonight in the main. And we're going to look at our area analysis. So what to look for, and how we can actually identify our hotspot areas. Sometimes you may need to move, although I would think that the majority can probably operate on your doorstep to start off with, and then as you get the confidence, you'll scale your business nationally and, you know, even internationally like I have. It just depends who you are and what you want and how big you want to build your business. I'm going to show you how we do the deal sourcing on my end. So basically just using my experience of how I've acquired all the property I've acquired from the very beginning all the way through to the current methods that we use. Probably doesn't come as a surprise. What I did back then, still I do now, you know, so that the fundamentals hasn't really changed. I have a thing called the Magic 8, which is my value proposition that I give to landlords when we're looking to do rent to rent deals. For me, the key points in this, if you learn them in the shower over the next 2 weeks and then recite them, you will, I guarantee you'll pick up properties. And then I'm also going to go through preventing costly mistakes. At the end of the day, one way or another, you're going to pay for your education. You either pay for it up front by coming on things like this and understand how to avoid mistakes, or you don't pay for it and you go into it like I did and you make lots of mistakes and they're often a lot more costly. So the idea of tonight's session is also to keep you away from what you shouldn't be doing as well. So area analysis, what to look for. For me, there's a few good signals that I always look for, and when I'm looking at a map. So if I get a postcode and I get a property By the way, if anybody does have any deals that they would like to go over, there is a segment of this where I'm going to show you how to actually analyze the deal. If we've got a live deal, that will be even better. So when we get to that section, all I'd need is the postcode of where the property is and what the property looks like. But please feel free to put your hand up. If not, I'll just do a demo. But yeah, good signals that I look for is hotels. Okay, so how many hotels are nearby? Reason being is hotels do so much research before they will actually lay a brick or put any furniture into a building or lease a building or buy a building, you know. So your bigger chains, your Premier Inns, your Holiday Inns, your Easy Hotels, those type of chains will do so much research before they decide to engage in that area. So if you've got a hotel probably within a mile or two of your postcode, your location, your property, then that for me is a good signal and gives me confidence that we can also make an Airbnb unit work. The next part is the number of reviews. So what I mean by this is if you go onto someone's Airbnb profile and you search or you search the postcode in Airbnb for what you're looking for, and you put in flexible stay, so it covers the next few months, put in the week rather than the weekend, choose whatever the number of beds is that yours or number of people yours sleeps. So for example, if you've got a 2-bed property, yes, you might make it sleep 6, but just put 4 in the search and click search. And then you'll get a list of properties. Within those properties, you will get a splat diagram on a map, which shows you how many are there. In the top, there is a number. That number can range from anything from none, typically, or a handful, all the way up to sort of 300 plus if you're bang in the middle of a city centre, for example. What we're looking for there is quite a large number. Now, if there's 200 people in a certain area doing it, well, I'm quite confident that I can make it work as well. And you should be too. So if there is a lower number, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be put off. It just means you probably need to do a bit more digging to see how occupied they are and how many reviews they've got. The next thing is down the left-hand side of your search comes up all of the property listings. What I like to do is just skim through them and just see how many reviews each property has got. So let's say, for example, we've done a search on a postcode and there's 75 locations have come up. Okay, we'll have a look at the map and just know exactly where ours is. So we'll say, right, well, we're there, and there seems to be a bit of a cluster around that. So that's a good sign. Okay, we then look at the review side of it and just scroll down the left and see, okay, they've got 12 reviews, they've got 27 reviews, they've got 44 reviews, they've got 5 reviews, they've got no reviews. So what we're looking for here is if the properties have got lots of reviews, it means that they've had lots of people stay with them. And that again is another good sign that the area works, because not everyone makes a review. Probably about a third of guests on Airbnb actually leave a review. It's actually getting less. It used to be a lot more. Not everybody books through Airbnb. So, you know, that's another thing to remember. So if they've got 20 reviews, chances are that they have probably had 90 to 100 stays through the different booking channels, through Airbnb off people who haven't left reviews. So for me, they're good signs that that area works. And again, thumbs up. So we've got the hotels, we've got the reviews, and the number of properties that are operating within that vicinity. We then have the number of operators. So again, as I mentioned before, when you put the search in, it actually tells you at the top above where all the listings are, how many people come up in that search. If you want, you can minus out of the map on the right-hand side, and that might bring more people into that search, basically giving it a bit more of a wider circumference around, a wider radius around the pinpoint that you initially put in. So they're all good signals that would give me confidence that we can go into this. I do not use anything like AirDNA or anything like that, okay? I don't pay for softwares to find out what I'm doing. This is the easiest way, the cheapest way, and it's a very quick process. And I've done this since day one. It's served me very well, over hundreds of properties acquired on this same format, so it must do something right. Next thing, again, coming on the tools, as I've mentioned, Airbnb. I literally just use, well, not just use, but Airbnb is one of my main tools. Whenever anyone gives me a property to analyze, all I ask for is the postcode. I bang the postcode in Airbnb. I do exactly what I said. I filter on the flexible stay rather than specific dates. I then put in the same number of bedrooms as the property, and I will then search. And I also go for the week as well, because the week's going to give the cheapest price. If we search weekend, it'll give a higher price, then we might think that that's the actual week price as well. When we go through the deal analysis later on, I'll show you how I use both sides of it. But for now, I use the week, and then that gives me all of this information. In terms of the postcode research, what I then do is I go into the actual postcode and I make sure that, because what can happen with Airbnb, you can put a postcode in and it gives it a bit of a radius. What I want to do is I really want to narrow it down to the actual postcode, and you've normally got to do that by clicking into the map and just see how many are literally nearby, see what the competition's like. Again, I'm not put off by loads of operators. I think that's a good sign because the saturation point for this game is far superior than anybody knows. Like, you know, I used to think, oh, I'm acquiring too many properties in Newcastle now. I need to move to a new city. And, you know, when I first started out, but, you know, even to this day, I continue to develop stuff here. And like, you know, we'll continue to add more, you know, and all the other cities we're operating in, we're adding more and more. And it's like, you know, the saturation point for every operator that comes in, there's also operators that are leaving the business as well, because not everyone is successful in this business. Not everyone likes this business. You know, I'm going to, you know, maybe smash a few dreams here, but this business is hard work. Okay. It's very satisfying with the money you can earn. And when you get it leveraged and you've got great people in your team that can take away a lot of the hassle tasks, it's fantastic. But in the main, where you guys are, you've got a hard road ahead of you over the next probably 6, 12, 18 months to get your business going, and then deal with all the crap that comes off the guests, deal with all the crap that comes off the cleaners. But listen, it can be very, very rewarding, and it's definitely less hassle than a 9 to 5. So, you know, that is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. The rent versus the rate. So again, a analysis that I get my students to do as part of their kind of onboarding tasks is we look at what the rents are within the postcodes and what the rates are in terms of a 1 bed, a 2 bed, a 3 bed, a 4 bed on average. Obviously taking that up as well, 5, 6 beds. And we just kind of try and identify, okay, well, those rents, if we have those rates times about 21 nights, then that's going to give us enough of a margin to be able to go. So then we'll investigate those postcodes a bit more and those rents, and they're typically the properties that we want to be taken on. There are some areas where the rent is far too high versus what the ADR, the average daily rate is, and they just don't work. So it's a case of doing your analysis and understanding your area. But in the main, most areas do work. It's very rare I come across an area where I say, I just don't think that's going to work. It's either, you know, it's just got no good signals, or the rent's too high, even though it's got the good signals, you know. But again, I'll show you later on my deal calculator how I make logical decisions rather than emotional decisions based on numbers. Because the minute you get emotions involved in this game is the minute you start losing money. So, you know, really important that you invest with logic and you invest with numbers. So how do we spot good areas? So for me, we want high ADR areas, okay? So high average daily rate areas. Now, there is a fantastic tool called Wheelhouse, which, as you can see here, actually gives you the sort of splat map. What have we got here? We've got Dubai here, my favorite place in the world. You know, but if we just bring it back to the UK, because most people are, go market reports. By the way, all you have to do is create an account here. You don't have to subscribe to Wheelhouse to find this. What did we have? Burton-on-Trent in the chat, didn't we? So let's see if they're Burton-on-Trent. So you just have to create an account to get these free market reports. You don't need to actually have a login. Back to view market report. Okay, so you'll see here, it kind of gives you, again, on the diagrams, you can zoom in, zoom out, gives you kind of the hot areas, the splat diagrams. When you know your cities and where you are, you'll be able to identify quickly where's good, where's not. Tells you how many listings there are. So there's 642 people doing this in Burton-on-Trent. That for me means that, listen, if 642 people can make money out of this, then I know I can make money out of this. The occupancy it's low here, but this is based on the last 365 days. The UK has been through quite a bit of a battle, let's be honest about it, over the last year and a half with service accommodation, ups and downs. Government grants have obviously helped and, kept the ADRs high if you factor it in, but I wouldn't worry too much about this occupancy because I think it's distorted until we have a good year or two running without any viruses, any lockdowns or any scares. Revenue per available room. So that's how much revenue is per available room advertised. The average nightly rates, the average lead time. So that's the booking time that comes in. So basically you've got a lot of revenue, a lot of data here to try and help you, even your weekday occupancies, to try and help you make some good decisions and find out where your high ADR areas are. So if you wanted to drill down into certain areas, then you can. You just change the address, obviously, or put the postcode in, and you'll start to see these figures starting to change. What you want to look at is basically this nightly rate here. You want to be trying to get the nightly rate as high as you possibly can, knowing where the areas are, where your rentals are as low as possible. So that for me is how we can leverage tools like this. There are other reports on here. You've got your trends report. So, it gives you your nightly rates. It'll tell you, whether it's trending up, trending down. You've got your historical data, which is a look back over. You've got your futuristic data. I'm not sure how accurate this futuristic data is. I think, COVID's taught us one thing, and that is definitely that we cannot predict the future. So we need to, take this with a pinch of salt. But, sometimes it gives you a good indication. However, I wouldn't necessarily be making decisions on it. I always like to look back as opposed to look forward in terms of the data and just see what's on. And then obviously you've got your events calendar here, so it tells you any up and coming events, which is really key for pricing and making sure that we're maximizing the opportunity in the market. In terms of the low rents, we want to ideally find locations that do have low rents with high ADRs, because that means there's a bigger profit margin. I've got some areas where, the stock is super cheap to acquire and the daily rates are the same as some of the other areas where the stock's much higher to acquire. Naturally, they're going to make more profit. If you have the luxury of being able to find those territories and they are nearby, then I would encourage you to try and start there. Now, don't get me wrong, if you haven't got a high ADR area or you haven't got a low rent area, doesn't necessarily mean you can't make money out of this game, because of course you can. We just go back to looking at the factors of how many people are operating. Do they have lots of reviews? We can actually have a little look at their forward calendar, although and I'll show you how we do that with the deal analysis, but it's not as effective as it once was. It used to be a lot more effective. Now the booking rate's about 10.46, 10.56 in terms of lead time that people are booking for. So really all you're going to see is 2 weeks worth of bookings booked. And that would, then, whereas before we used to get like 30, 45 days ahead booked. So you used to be able to look on the calendars and see, months in advance booked, and it used to be great. But that just doesn't happen anymore. So, but yeah, don't be disappointed if you can't find a low rent area or a high ADR area. As I said, the majority of areas do work. You've just got to make sure that you're getting a rent that works. Or, all of my owned properties work. If you're buying a property and your mortgages are typically, 50, if not more, 70% lower than a rent. So you're always going to have that upside gain, and you're definitely going to make more than if you had it as a tenant, an AST, a tenanted property. So for me, every single property that I buy now goes into service accommodation, make on average around about £1,300 profit per month on my owned units. Whereas if I was renting them out to tenants, I'd be making about 250 quid. So it's an absolute no-brainer for me to put them on. What have we got next? Long seasons. So there are certain places and certain countries that do have longer seasons than others. So for example, the UK has probably 2 to 3 months high season. It has 2 to 3 months low season, and then it has kind of 6 months of average season. So we've kind of got July, August, mid-June till sort of early September is the high season. We then dip into a low season kind of November, December, January, or mid-November to sort of mid-Feb. And then we start to come out of that into an average season until we get to kind of mid-June. Obviously, we have peaks and troughs with Easter breaks and kids holidays and half terms and stuff like that, which helps. But in the main, that's how the seasons run. Whereas, say, for example, Dubai actually has pretty much 8 months of high seasons because the weather is fantastic for kind of 6 to 7 months. And it only really has sort of June, July, August, where the weather's pretty much unbearable, so no one really travels. So those long season destinations are obviously going to make more money than the ones that have less, or shorter seasons, shorter high seasons. However, it doesn't mean you can't make money, and it also doesn't mean you can't make money if you are just purely in a holiday destination in the UK that, doesn't have or only has 3 months of high season. There's plenty of places, the Cotswolds, the lakes, some of the Welsh sort of valleys and Welsh coastal lines. They are, very much just tourist destinations for summer holidays, but you can earn a fortune. In literally 3 or 4 months, you can earn a fortune from these places and effectively shut them down for the rest of the year, and you will still be very profitable. So it's just about finding the right areas, the right niches, and what suits you as well, and what profit margins you're going for, because not everyone's got the same expectations. People might need a certain amount of money out of a property. People might not want to work so much for a certain amount of money. You might have a minimum that you'll work for. My personal opinion is if it makes profit, I'll have it. Because at the end of the day, whether it makes me $2,000 a year or 25 grand a year, well, I'm still better off. As long as I'm not losing money, I'm happy. So, and once you've got the machine built out and we've got, the processes built out and you've got the team built out, then all it is just plugging it in and just throwing it into the machine, and the machine just makes it work. So you're not actually having to do that much more to facilitate another unit. And obviously you're going to get the profit at the end of the day. There are a lot of developing and expanding cities going on right now. Contractors are few and far between. If you didn't have a good contractor team before the pandemic, then you're probably going to struggle to get your projects done now. But there's loads of cities developing. There's loads of money going into these cities to, make them, better. There's all sorts of developers, wanting to develop in these cities. The councils are wanting people to develop, kind of. If only they would be quicker with planning permission, that would help. But try and look for these areas. If you're near these areas, a case and example is, I know there's a £300 million project going on the quayside in Newcastle, but it's actually on the Gateshead side of the river. So for the last 3 years, this project hasn't started yet, but for the last 3 years, I have been buying loads of stock in Gateshead. I've been renting loads of stock in Gateshead because I know when that project kicks off, my places are going to be full, and full for years, because the project's not going to finish overnight. A £300 million project is going to take some time. So, if you can spot and identify these type of things going on in your cities, and all you got to do really is just keep your ear at the ground, do a bit of a Google research, what's going on in my city, what developments are going on in my city. Even just ring a few developers, bigger developers, ask them if they're building any houses or building any commercial buildings. There's actually another gig being, you can also jump on the government's website and actually have a look on the planning portal and see what planning permission's been granted. So, there's another big development, 200 odd million on the Newcastle side now, where they're converting a big office job and blah, blah, blah. So that again is going to bring loads of contractors in that have special, what's the word I'm looking for? So skill sets. And they then get hired up from London or up from wherever to come and work on the projects. They stay for either a week or 10 days at a time, and then they go back down. And, that is where the money is in the UK for me in serviced accommodation, is getting the contractors through the week. The weekenders are great and you can charge them more, but they do tend to come with more hassle and more maintenance, and they don't return. A stag and hen party coming for a weekend, well, they're not coming back. They're not going to get, well, they might do, but they're hopefully not going to get divorced anytime soon, so they're not going to be having another stag and hen. Contractors need accommodation every single week that they're traveling, and most of them will work on projects that last some time. So try and find out where your development areas are and plonk your properties or get your properties next to them, and you'll maintain high occupancies. Okay, so deal sourcing. I have what I call my famous 5. And since day one, this has kind of been my go-to and still is now. And, unfortunately, there's probably nothing in here that's going to, everyone wants the magic tree, the magic website. Unfortunately, there isn't one. There's just a case of doing a lot of work on multiple different websites, but doing it in the right way, which I'm going to kind of try and help you with now, because I do see a lot of people doing it in the wrong way and not getting the results that they need. So first and foremost, we've got Open Rent. Now, for those that don't know, Open Rent is a platform where landlords can advertise on Open Rent's website, and Open Rent will push it to RightMove and Zoopla and all the bigger channels, and without having to have an agency account. Okay, so Open Rent is basically when you send a message on Open Rent about a property, that will be going direct to a landlord's inbox, to their mobile or to their email account. So that will hit their inbox straight away. Now, the problem is everyone knows this now. So everyone that's doing rent to rent is doing the same. So what you got to do is try and get your message across. And for me, I like to just keep things simple. So is this available? When can I book a viewing in? I'm not divulging any information about what I'm looking to do with the property at this stage. Just very simply, is it available? When can I book a viewing in? And I just try and stick to that. But what I'll do is, if I don't get a response, I don't just say, all right, I'll just leave that one. I go back, hey, just checking that you've seen this message. I'd really like to get a viewing. Hey, I still see that your property is still available a week on. I'd really like to get a viewing, and just keep being persistent, because, it's not that they're ignoring you. They're just busy. How many times have you forgotten to reply to someone on a WhatsApp, or you've marked an email read, and then 3 days later you're like, shit, I forgot to get back to that person? It's not because you didn't want to or you're ignoring them. It's because you just forgot. We get busy. Like, we live in a world where there's so much happening now and flashing in front of our faces. It's easy to drop the ball on things. So don't be afraid to keep pestering. I actually tell my team here, I want you to pester them basically until they tell you to piss off, because at least I know you've done absolutely everything you can. And if you do that, then you will get results, but don't give in. Even if if you don't get the first response back, don't give in. And that's what happens with far too many people. The next place that we would look for is, RightMove. RightMove is probably the biggest search tool for property to both buy and rent. And on the purchasing side of RightMove, what I tend to look for, obviously on the BRR strategy, we're looking for properties that we can do up. We're looking for properties we can add value to so that we can refinance them at the uplifted value and get our money back out and then use the money to go again. It's an unbelievable strategy when you can A, do it, and B, you know how to do it. I've built, my portfolio very quickly into a lot of money. I've got a lot of assets now by rinsing one pot of money. At the start, I just turned one pot of money through a property, another property, another property. And then as I got the cash flow from my rent to rent, so I could then do 2 of them at a time, then 3 of them at a time. And it just scaled and multiplied. But the simple process of rinsing money through a property on the BRR strategy is an immense strategy. So I used to, I say this all the time, I basically go searching for, in my mind, my granny's house when I was a kid. So when I'm scrolling through, I'm looking for green carpets, wooden sort of bathrooms, brown kitchens, basically anything that looks horrible. That's what we're kind of looking for. We're looking for dated properties that need a bit of TLC. And in an ideal world, I don't really want to be spending time, not really the money, time doing massive refurbs on single residential units. I don't mind for, my developments where we're building multiple flats and blocks of flats and things like that. Naturally, they're going to take time, but for a single residential house, you want to try and just get in, out, and get it cash flowing. And the simplest way to do that is find a house that needs modernizing, put a brand new kitchen in it, a brand new bathroom in it, paint the walls gray, stick a nice gray carpet down, and get it refinanced. And before COVID, I had this rinsed at 10 weeks. I could pick the keys up from a estate agent and I could have the money back in my bank account within 10 weeks. It's changed somewhat now with conveyancing processes slowing things down. And the market's also shifted slightly at the minute where you are having to maybe pay market value for those type of properties now. So you're having to add value in a different way, which is, for me, adding extensions, loft conversions, that sort of thing, trying to do it all under permitted development. So we're not having to wait ages and ages for planning permission. So that has kind of affected it slightly. However, there are still the old traditional BRR deals kicking about. And it's just a case of searching hard and making sure that you're making enough inquiries. On RightMove, on the rental side, typically you're going to come across agents for every single advert, apart from the open rent ones that filter over. But this is a good opportunity for you to build relationships with agents, find properties. I'll come on to kind of what we're going to look for. But for me, find properties that are just ready to go. I did far too much refurbing in my early days of other people's properties. I probably wouldn't do it if I could wind the clock back now. There's plenty of stock out there that's ready to go. There's plenty of developers developing stock, refurbishing them, and then putting them on the market. They're the perfect properties to get stuck into, and you can find an abundance of them on RightMove. And it's just a case of ringing as many agents as you possibly can to, ask the question, is it available? Can I have a viewing? Is it available? Can I have a viewing? The next place for me is Gumtree. You'd be surprised how much property I've actually acquired from Gumtree. And I was thinking about this the other day, what the ROI on it would be. And, you're into probably 10,000s of percent because for one, it's all free. It's only your time that you're investing. But for me, if somebody's advertising on Gumtree, they are very motivated. Whether it's a landlord wanting to rent their property or whether it's a vendor wanting to sell their property, they are hugely motivated. Because if not, they'd just give it to an agent, they'd bang it on RightMove, or they'd put it on open rent, So the best properties are, if you can actually find a property on Gumtree that's for sale and for rent, then that is a landlord or a owner you need to get in front of, because they've got problems. And this game of property is nothing more than solving problems for people. That's all you have to do, is understand what people's problems are. It's like every product's the same in the world. Everyone's got a problem. If you've got a service that solves a problem, you get paid. And this is no different. Property is no different. Everybody has a problem when they are listing a property, whether it's just a simple problem of they want to get it rented so they don't start losing money, or whether it's a more major problem like they're in that much mortgage arrears, they just need to clear the debt and they'll do anything to get out of it. There's so many different reasons why people list properties, but the idea is that they have a problem if they are listing it. So we're there to solve their problems, and Gumtree is a fantastic way to find those properties. You can also create your own inbound flow on Gumtree by creating properties wanted adverts. So in the properties wanted section, you can put adverts out. You can go to Canva, you can create a template, you can change it up. I was posting an advert every single day on Gumtree for about the first 9 months of my business starting up. And I wouldn't say I got loads of leads, but the leads that I did get, maybe 5 a month, were very, very good leads. And most of them, I would say, turned into a deal of some sort. Now, I say it quite often, and I'm sure if anyone here has been following me for a while, I built my business on Facebook. I still continue to build my business on Facebook. I think it is a powerful tool. Downside these days is you've got to really understand how to play the algorithms, because they've made it harder to reach other people. Naturally, you know, Facebook's $1 billion company. They're not going to just give everyone connection for free. So they're wanting people to pay more and more these days. But Facebook groups are fantastic ways to find properties. Again, find those motivated landlords, those motivated sellers. Now, for me, there's plenty of groups like for sale, whatever your location is, you know, apartments for rent location. You know, there's your general landlord type groups, your general deal sourcing type groups. So there's loads of different groups. If you just think of keywords and search, you'll come across a load of groups. Join them, have a little look in them, see if anybody's posting anything of interest, see if there's anything that might work for you, and then, you know, just explore them. But the thing with Facebook groups and Facebook in general is you have to have the discipline to show up and do it every single day. 15 minutes, 20 minutes of research, just diving into a few groups, having a little look around, putting in the search terms, the keywords, you know, having a look at, you know, whatever you could put in the keyword box, 3-bed, and it'll bring up all the posts that have got 3 beds written in them, and, you know, whatever it might be that you're looking for. So you can use Facebook groups to what I call, you know, go mining. So we go mining for the leads. We find them. You then need to make sure, and this is one of the, like, this is probably the fundamental key where people go wrong with Facebook. If you are not connected with someone and you send them a message, it goes into their message request folder. Those message request folders are full of local hookups with not the right type of people that you want to be mixing with. And 9 times out of 10, you don't read those inboxes. You never go into them. You never even bother with them. However, if you see a post, what you should do is like the post, and then you should comment on the post. I've sent you a DM. Most of you, if you've been connected with me, will have been through this process with me. And the reason we do that is then you get a notification. Everybody checks their notifications. So it then says, Ryan has commented on your post in the Newcastle Apartments for Sale group. So they'll click on that and they'll go to the post. They'll then read, I've sent you a DM. They'll naturally go into their DMs. They'll see it's not in their inbox. They'll check the message request folder, and boom, there's the message. That is the simplest way to improve your conversion rates of response rates. Because if you don't do it, they don't know you exist. Your message gets lost in translation, okay? So that is a fundamental piece of the puzzle if you're gonna use Facebook that you must do. The other thing you can do with groups is what I call call out posts. So you can put in there, you know, big purple block or a blue block, and you can just put simply looking for a 2-bed apartment in location. Any landlords on here have anything, ? You know, or looking to buy a 1-bed flat in X location. Anybody selling anything right now? They don't know whether you're a buyer, a seller, a renter, a estate agent, whatever. They don't know. So 9 times out of 10, if they've got something, they'll just respond and be like, yeah, I've got one. Then you go into the conversation. Great. Is it still available? When can I get on a viewing? When can we see it? You know, and that opens up that conversation again. And that's all we're trying to do, is just open conversations. I say it all the time, you know, just open conversations and you will get deals. If you don't open conversations with people, you'll not get any deals, because this game is a relationship game. So whether you're phoning estate agents, whether you're opening messages on Facebook, whether you're sending emails on Open Rent, you're opening conversations with people. And by doing so and doing it in volumes, you will find plenty of deals. Facebook Marketplace getting more and more popular. I think with Facebook Marketplace is pages can't advertise on Facebook Marketplace. You can only do it from your personal profiles. So 9 times out of 10, if there are properties on there, although agents do seem to be getting around this at the minute, but if there are properties on there, you can tend to get direct to the person that's actually listing that property. And again, you're opening that conversation, you know, and when you're speaking direct to the owners or, you know, the landlords, you do get better deals, and you also get better traction, because there's no middle person thinking about their agenda. It's just what you can do to help each other, how you can solve their problem. And you can always relay your message 100 times better than an estate agent can, or a middleman can, because not only do you have the understanding of your business and how it works, you're also passionate about it. And for me, that is what probably won me a lot of my deals in the beginning, when I didn't really have any experience, and, you know, I probably was winging it a bit, but I turned up, I believed in my service, I believed in what I was doing, I was confident about what I was doing, and I showed that passion. And I think when people can feel that, they want to do business with you, they want to work with you. Whereas, you know, an estate agent, I mean, I've got so-and-so and he wants to rent your property, would you do it? No. Okay, thanks, I'll tell them. You know, it's not going to work the same. So for me, always try and get direct where you can, and you will get plenty of deals. So they're kind of the 5 places that I would be hanging out if I was you. If you could allocate 20 minutes a day to each one of those, I guarantee you would find a hell of a lot of deals over the next 30 days. So, Magic 8, let me just quickly dive into the questions here and see if there's anything. Is there a specific market you target, for example, vacations, corporate contract? No, I just target profit. So if it makes profit, if it stacks up on the deal analyzer, which I'll show you in a bit, then I go for it. What's your average investment in furnishing a rent-to-rent property? Mine is a lot less now, because I wholesale furniture and I'll buy 30 or 50 grand's worth at a time. So it's a bit different, but you know, if you are, I guess, furnishing and you don't have the luxury of wholesale trade prices, then you're probably, it's difficult, because I actually got asked this question the other night off one of the mentees. You can furnish these places on Facebook Marketplace, for example, and keep them cheap. But then you're investing a lot of time going picking all these things up. So it's that time versus money reward, you know, so you've got to always weigh that up. So you can probably kit a 2-bed house out for under 1,500 quid if you want, if you go bargain hunting. But, you know, if you want to just get it done quickly, you might have to pay 3.5 or 4 grand. And then a company will just come and do it, take all the rubbish away, and it's done, it's ready to go. So I guess you've got to weigh up the time versus cost. Website for nightly rates is Wheelhouse. When just starting a rent event, what's your tips for providing credibility to the property owner to enable opening the conversation, closing the deal? I try and get in person. I think you're more credible when you're stood in front of somebody and you can relay your passion and your trust, and you can echo the values, and you can objection handle without them sort of just putting the phone down or going away. You can actually stay there in the moment and keep going through it. I think you just got to ooze confidence. And for me, if anyone didn't think I was credible at the beginning, I always just offered personal guarantees. I was like, listen, I own my own house, I'll give you a personal guarantee. And that normally just gets you over that hurdle. Cool. All right, that's those for questions for now. Hopefully that helps. All right, so Magic 8. Learn these. Like, seriously, learn these. You know, I'd like you to take a screenshot. Actually, I forgot to mention at the beginning, whoever puts the most out on social media over the next 2 days regarding this whole thing, I will do a free 1-hour call with you, and we'll do a proper business consultancy call. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. So, you know, take pictures, get started, document your journey, share things, tell people what you've learned. You know, adding value to people is how you actually attract money. Okay, and it's a fundamental thing. Money is just a tool for exchange. Everyone's chasing money, but that's the wrong way of doing things. Okay, if you chase money, you'll never have money. If you add value to people, you will have money. So it's a little mindset shift that might need to happen. We'll talk about that more tomorrow, but on terms of adding value, this is exactly what you want to be doing. Okay, so when you're seeing a landlord, you are wanting to add value into their life. If you're not adding value into them, you've got very little chance of doing the deal. Okay, if you go with a me attitude and all you want is what you can get out of it, you'll not get many deals. If you focus on what you can add to them and then just, you know, take what you can get, then, you know, at least you get a deal. And it might not be as profitable as you might like, but you get a deal. Okay, at least it's profitable. So magic number 8, no voids. One of the biggest problems that landlords face, and listen, I sit on the landlord fence as well. I've got a lot of tenants, and you know, I get to rent day and so-and-so hasn't paid again, so-and-so hasn't paid again. You know, with the way that we set the agreements up, we're a corporate tenancy, and you know, we are going to pay you because at the end of the day, this is our business, you know, and we will make money from the property. So there's no reason why we won't pay you. Whereas if Jimmy loses his job, he ain't got any money to pay you, you know. So, but we know that this is going to work. We know that we're going to make money. So I will be able to pay you every single month. So there's no void. So ultimately the landlord makes more profit over the long term. We will be cleaning the property at least once a week. And I don't just mean, you know, making the bed and, you know, cleaning the shower and, you know, whatever. We deep clean these properties. We clean the ovens, we clean the microwaves. We, you know, clean under the couches. We clean all the drawers out. We do the windowsills. You know, tenants do not do this. You'll be lucky if a tenant cleans the property in the whole time that they're even there in most cases. So that means that the properties get in bad condition, which ultimately increases the costs of the turns. So for us, we're cleaning the property at least every week, i.e. we are keeping it in show home condition every single week, because we've got a property that we are advertising on a platform saying, come and stay with us. This is what it looks like. If a guest does not walk into that, they're not going to be happy. So we have to keep it in that condition at all times. We will refurbish the property in the main. So again, I touched base on this earlier. I did a lot of refurbishments when I was in the early days. I do a lot less now, but we will still paint feature walls, potentially replace carpets, and just make them, you know, up to a nice standard, which adds value to the property for the landlord without them having to put their hand in their pocket. So, you know, it's not often that a tenant will come along and say, I'm going to refurbish your property for you on my pennies. Normally they'd be asking the landlord to pay for it and then they'll move in. Kind of touched base on this before with the clean. We will hand the property back with no end of term refurbishment required. So typical tenant hands a property back. A landlord's looking at least $1,000 to turn that around, you know, even just get it freshly painted or replace the carpets. There's always something wrong. So it's very rare that you get one back and there's nothing to do. We will hand it back in that show home condition because we have to keep it like that every week to be able to attract guests. Chances are you'll not actually hand these things back. It's more the landlord that wants them back, but then that's a different conversation and you can actually offer to buy the property because that's normally why they want them back. But if they're good properties, you're going to keep them for a while and there'll be no issues. Any damage we'll fix. So any damage caused by the guest, we fix. Any damage caused by tenants, you don't normally get them fixing it. What tends to happen is they don't pay the monthly rent the month before they're about to go, and then the deposit that they left's useless because that only substitutes the rent that they've left behind. So, you know, tenants, they're not daft. They know how to work the system. So any damage caused by a guest, we will fix. There's no tenant finder's fees. Obviously this was brought in several years ago, which really made, you know, a big difference in the landlord's pockets. So they're not having to pay any tenant finder's fees in the main. If we're getting direct to landlord, They're not going to have to pay us to move in. It's a very straightforward procedure. There's no tenant finder's fees to pay. Every single time they want to bring in a new tenant into their property, then obviously they're going to have to pay finder's fees. With us, they don't. Okay, so they save quite a bit. The typical tenant finder's fees right now is a month's rent. So, you know, it can be quite a chunk of money, especially if you're having tenants turn every, you know, year or 14 months, or in some cases sooner. So, you know, it can be all these magic 8 points. You can link them back to more profit in their pocket. And that's what landlords like to hear, because that's why most of them do it, is for an investment, and they want to get as much of an ROI as they can. So always link it back to, listen, we can make you make more profit. There's no ongoing management charges. You know, we don't charge 10% or 5% to manage the property for them. However, we are actually managing the property for them, because we're cleaning it every week. You know, we're checking it every single time a guest checks out. We've got softwares that check that property. We get photographs of that property. You know, an estate agent will do that once every 3 months if they're lucky. You know, we're constantly in touch with what's going on in the property, and we know what's going down, but we're not charging them a fee for it. We're just in there. We're looking after it for them. And the main thing is, you know, we do want it for a long time. So, you know, in the main, I would say I've got 97% of the properties that I've ever taken on. And the reasons I haven't got some of them are odd things. Like, one, the landlord wouldn't repair some damp, and it kept coming up on reviews. And it just got to the point where I was like, do you know what? If you're not prepared to repair the damp, I don't want you as a landlord. Like, you don't deserve my money, because I know the service that I deliver is far greater than a tenant. And, you know, he wouldn't do that for me. So we kind of give the keys back. But in the main, I keep them all because they make money. So why do I want to give them back? The landlords are happy. They don't ever need to be bothered. They don't ever get any hassle. They don't have to come and inspect the properties. You know, it's such an easy ride for them. It is unbelievable. And that is why this model works so well, when you can explain this to landlords. So it doesn't matter whether you're new in the game or whatever. This model is proven to work over and over and over again. And if you can just echo these service values to the landlord, they should be begging you by the end of it to take their property off them. And if you can do it properly, you will get the rates lower than they need to be. You will get no deposit deals, and you'll get the contracts on your terms as opposed to theirs. You know, but again, it's just doing it properly, echoing the value, and making them understand all the benefits that they can have. There is also a Section 24 benefit. So without going too much into detail, the Section 24 was brought in several years ago. It was phased in, and basically means that the landlords, if they've got properties in their personal name, they can't write off the mortgage interest as a cost. So they end up paying more tax. And if they're higher rate taxpayers, this can be a lot of money. So it almost makes their investments pointless. Now, you can't necessarily do it on a rent-to-rent deal, but you can do it on a managed deal, or you can do it on a quirky rent-to-rent deal. But basically, there has to be risk involved, and it has to show trading income rather than investment income. But in the main, done correctly, you know, and there are ways to do it, you can actually help the landlord save tax if they've got the properties in their own name. And that, for me, is an absolute game changer in the main. Okay, so I'm going to go through a deal with you all now, and a little walkthrough. Does anybody have a deal? Just if anyone's got a deal, pop it in the chat, or if not, I'll just go through it. I'll just make one up. Let me just answer, see if there's any questions here.
I've got a property that I'm going to see tomorrow.
Okay, right, we'll do that one. Yeah, we'll do that one. Perfect. So, are you staying under the threshold available to let number of nights to be exempt of business rates and the rent to rent, and therefore only paying standard council tax? No, you want to be on business rates, okay? It kind of pisses me off a bit, that people, the advice that gets thrown out in Facebook forums about it. If you're running a trading business, which service accommodation is, you have to be on business rates. You know, there's no question about that. And anybody that's advising differently, you just don't want to be listening to them because it's incorrect. But one of the main things that I think has really come to the forefront in the last 2 or 3 years is if you do the job properly, you get supported in times of desperation and, problem times. So, the government stepped in and said, do you know what? Like, the hospitality industry has been absolutely crippled. Those that are on business rates, we're going to support, and then you had everyone scrambling to get on business rates because they didn't do the job properly in the first place, because they want to save an extra 20 quid a month. Like, you do the job properly in the first place and you'll always be looked after, but you should be on business rates. There's ways you can mitigate your business rates tax by, you can do various companies or, you can do various things, but in the main, just, you need to be on business rates. It's as simple as that. Don't listen to anyone otherwise. Right, let's, right, let me go 2 seconds. Where's my screen? Right, so this is my deal analyzer. Okay, if anyone hasn't seen this, this is kind of my tool that I have built. So this is my BRR element of it. Basically, you put all the details in, purchase price, your legal fees, basically the grey boxes you fill in. The white boxes automatically fill themselves. You put your rentals in here, you put your refinance information in here, it tells you how much flip viability is. And then here, it tells you basically what your total investment is, what your refinance cash flow will be, how much cash out you'd get. So basically, if these columns are red, I don't touch the deals. If they're green, I do touch the deals. And this echoes all the way through the sheet. You put in sort of your average values here for your comparables, using Zoopers and all that sort of good stuff, any notes. And then there's a bridging calculator here as well, which again, you just bang in the different fees, also a lease option analysis as well. Again, you just put in the different figures within the grey column. Now, the good thing about this is it all flows. So if we have ABC property here, when I go to the SA analysis tab here, then ABC property is in this same column. And if I have a mortgage amount in here, there's a mortgage where that's here, new month payment, then that would actually filter in here as well. So you can use this as a great follow-up tool. I'm just writing my new book at the minute, and I've actually discussed this today on that section of the book about follow-up and how important that is to really keep your pipeline moving. You want to be, making sure that your pipeline is constantly there. You want to be, tracking the deals. You want to be keeping an eye on, what's happening, accepted, rejected, pending, not the right property. You can use this spreadsheet or a spreadsheet of your own to just keep on top of anything. But let's use it for the sake of this deal. So, Brango, what's the postcode?
B42.
You got the full postcode?
Yes. Hang on. Let me get it. It is B42 2TP.
So, right, this is what I was talking about before, where you go, I'm flexible here, as opposed to a calendar and selecting dates. So I go, I'm flexible. I choose 3 months. So I've got 3 months, and I choose the week section here, as opposed to the weekend to start off with. What size property is it?
It's a 7-bedroom property.
Okay. Chucking me in the deep end here. Okay, well, let's go 10 guests. Okay, this is an abnormal one, but we've got to analyze them all. So let's see what the map brings up. Okay, we've got plenty going on here. So what I'm looking for here, you see this 36 days in Perry Bar. Okay, so we've got 36 days. So this is the confidence thing I was talking about, the good signals. 36 isn't a disaster. It's not amazing, but at the end of the day, we have searched for large properties here. So I'm pretty sure if I was to scale that down to 2 beds or 4 beds, there'd be a lot more, there'd be hundreds. So if we actually look through here, we've got 12 guests, 4 bedrooms, 16 guests, 7 bedrooms, 10 guests, 4 bedrooms, 12 guests, 6 bedrooms. So as you can see, the size of the properties here are quite large. Now, the next thing we do, remember, is look at the reviews. So no reviews, no reviews. 16 reviews, no reviews. 72 reviews, no reviews. 24 reviews, 52 reviews, 3 reviews. 15, 384. So this is starting to show me that I'm confident, right? I'm already confident. I've got good reviews. I've got a decent number of large properties, which is, a good sign. So the next thing that we want to do is start looking at the actual financials. So let's just jump over to here. Is this a rent to rent or a BRR?
It can be a BRR. It's a potential PLO option, but so he's open to rent. So my idea was to come up with a sort of an agreement where I can do rent to then fund the purchase.
So rent to purchase. Okay. All right. Right. Well, let's just stick with it. So yeah. Furniture cost. Is it got any furniture in?
Pardon?
Got any furniture in?
No. It's empty.
Okay. 7 bedrooms. You're going to be probably somewhere in the region of that, I would say, maybe a bit more to be fair. But any deposit?
No, I haven't contacted. I've been there. I'm seeing it tomorrow, so I don't have any details as such.
Okay.
I'm hoping not, because we're open to it.
Do you think it needs any refurb?
Yes, it does. It does.
What does it need?
It's going to need a new kitchen. It's going to need all the rooms will need refurbing, really. So it's going to be a big job.
Let's put 20 grand in there. I mean, this is probably going to knock out rent to rent deal, but there's other ways we can look at it. Any idea on the rent?
2,800. That's the initial.
Okay. Council tax are probably 240. Light power cube 150. Water rates probably 80. Repairs and maintenance probably 100. Okay, so we've got our costs in, right? So then what we want to do here is look at weekday nights booked. Okay, so we come back to here. This is, remember, on weekdays, and what we want to do here is draw an average from what we're advertised. So we're looking for 7 bedrooms and what it's going to be bringing in. So we've got one there for 189. We've got 10 guests there, 295, 12 guests, 179, 10 guests, 265, 268, 294, 188, 267. I mean, I'm sort of thinking worst case scenario around the 200 quid mark, but I would say, possibly that 225 was springing into my head. To be kind of well within the mix there. So I think we'll kind of go with that. So weekday nights booked, I always go with 13 for a busy place, which is, effectively kind of your 4 midweek days. We've got 225 in there as the price. And then the weekends, all we do is go back up here and change this. And we just change that to weekend and then click search. 610, 480, 320, 400, 517, 420, 636, 516, 500, 465. I mean, for me, I'm thinking again like 400, 425, something like that. And I'd have eight nights booked. So 425. Whoop. 425 in there. Minimum night stay, probably about 3 days. Should say stay. Cleaning fee cost per stay, you're probably on a 7 bed, you'd be looking at probably £100 a turn, I would say. Linen is probably going to be somewhere up there as well. So We're then in here, gross revenue 6,325. You're looking at 474 quid's worth of online travel agent commissions. You're looking at a running cost of about 4,200 quid, VAT of 839. Now, a lot of people would say, well, I'm not VAT registered, that's fine. But if you build a successful service accommodation business, you will quite quickly become VAT registered. You know, if you're doing £6,000 gross revenue from one property, within 7-8 months, you're going to be VAT registered. So, you know, you add a few more properties in the mix, you're going to be there. Total profit, 1,288. So that gives us a quick snapshot. This here is my occupancy and my rate based on seasonality. So I might change these a bit for the seasons, you know, 65% in Jan with a kind of probably 85% rate. And then it kind of scales a bit. So we've probably got, I don't know, probably 67%, I'll go 70 maybe in Feb. Rate bumping back up a bit to sort of 87. March starts to peak out at sort of 75 and 95% rate. And then we're probably starting to push 77s, 100% rates, and then May kind of 83%, something like that, 100. June we've got 90, 95 with the increase in the rates, 80, 70, 75, October 70, 90. And December's been funny the last few years. It always used to be quite good, but it has been a bit funny the last couple of years. I know obviously the virus hasn't helped, but you know, we're going on data there. Let's go on that. So what this then does is it gives us a snapshot of what's going on in the seasonals. So in January, it's going to be a loss. Feb a loss, March a loss, but then it starts to, you know, pick up and make profit. So across the year, it's only going to make 1,700 quid according to these sort of calculations. So obviously this payback doesn't work. I mean, this payback wouldn't work anyway. It's got 20 grand refurb in there. If we just assume it hasn't got a refurb in and the setup cost was 7.5 grand, as you can see here, that's showing that the deal doesn't work. So you say, well, why is it not working? Because here it says it does work, but here it's sort of the seasonalities are kicking in and saying it doesn't. So, you know, these are quite harsh figures in all fairness, but I like to play harsh because, you know, at the end of the day, you'd rather see an upside gain and be surprised than, you know, overstate things and be disappointed, which unfortunately you see a lot from deal sources kicking deals around, especially the ones that have like never actually ran a serviced accommodation business. So it always baffles me how they can actually choose these numbers and these occupancy rates, but they do. Now, for me, what we'd look, you know, you got to remember here we're operating on 21 nights, and we've got this. So it on the face of it, this is looking like, you know, not a great deal. You know, so I think we'd need to look into, okay, well, what can we do to make it a good deal? You know, can we pull the rent down? 2 grand. The bills are the bills. You're not really gonna save much on the bills. 650. That could be a bit steep in terms of the cleaning fees and linen hires for 21 nights. You got your rates, council tax. Again, 13 nights, 225, 450. This you could possibly push up to 450. I think I was probably being a bit harsh on that. 225, 450. So as you'll see here, we're starting to make a difference now because I've taken out that refurb. So we've lowered the rent. So we're now looking at profit every single month, and it's starting to look quite healthy in certain months. You see there, by just changing that by 25 quid, it makes such a difference to the profit. You know, on each and every night throughout the weekend, 8 nights booked. So now we're looking at an 18 grand profit, which obviously starts to look healthy. And you can see here, so I have a 6-month rule. If it's red for that and then green after there, I'm okay.
If it's red down to month 7, I don't go into the deal, or I have to renegotiate the deal to get this to go green at month 6 or before. So for this deal here, you can see that without the refurbishment cost and just the furniture, on average, we're going to get the money back in around month 4 from our outlay, and it all becomes not a bad deal. Now, he's more than likely not going to give us 800 quid off the rent a month. So as you can see there, by adding 500 quid back on, we're now in month 7 as a payback. Now, some might say, well, you know, it's only an extra month. But if you start breaking your own rules, then month 7 will become month 8, month 8 will become month 9, month 9 will become month 10. And all of a sudden you'll start taking on deals that don't really provide any cash flow until after a year, which is just, there's just no point. There's better deals out there, and you will find good deals. So all in all, having put those tweaks in, I'd probably want to verify the linen a bit more, just make sure that, you know, that does look about right for, I still think that might be a bit low for a 7-bed and 7 sleeping 14, but let's put this back up. So what difference that makes. See that your linen here, your linen hire and your cleaning costs are kind of what we need to get absolutely nailed for the area. So what I'd be doing here, possibly even before I'd gone for the viewing, Branka, is I'd be trying to get some quotes for linen for that area. Just say, I've got this house and I'm looking for quotes. How much would it cost to turn it over? And then at least you can firm that figure up, because it does make a bit of a difference to the actual profit. And then obviously getting your month, you'll see there, obviously the payback's now 11 months. So that's kind of how I analyze a deal using, you know, the spreadsheet that we've got here. It gives you the seasonal factors and it gives you the kind of quick snapshot. And then if you want to dig into BRR, the lease option side of it, we would come down here and we'd put in here all the different details of, you know, what the current market value is, what the agreed term is for the lease, the predicted end value, and then, you know, so on and so forth, and it all goes through, and it'll actually tell you what your rolling profit is per year based on the agreement. So so many things that you can do, but the main thing is that you've got some form of tool to be able to track everything through, create a follow-up tool, but also give you a decision based on numbers rather than emotion, because it's easy, especially at the beginning, to invest with emotion and just get deals. I did it, you know, I made the mistake, took on some properties that shouldn't have taken on. They made profits, but they're now a headache. They're not the best. They're getting bad reviews. They've worn quite easily. You know, they're starting to cost a bit now to refurb just to keep on top of them. So, you know, but they're all lessons learned. And, you know, I probably got into them. There's a couple I got into without really trusting the data. They don't make enough money. So, you know, whilst they don't lose anything, they just don't make anything really. So you kind of just wash in its face, which isn't, you know, really what you want to be doing. So in the main, you want to try and protect yourself and make sure that every property works. And you can do that by investing with numbers rather than investing with your heart, which is easy to do. Right, if there's any questions on that, please just shout. Branky, do you have any questions on that, seeing as though it is a deal, or?
No, thank you. I think I'll go and view the property just to establish a relationship with the agency rather than getting the deal as such.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, no viewing is wasted.
Yeah.
Again, I was actually, you know, talking about this in my book yesterday. No viewing is wasted. I went on a lot of viewings, especially in the first probably 2 years. I think I totaled something like 1,000 viewings, and every single one of them is worth something. It either teaches you something that you don't want, or it teaches you a better way to analyze a property, or you start to see things like damp and, you know, cracks in walls and stuff like that you never saw before, or you just meet a really nice person who wants to help you, whether it be a landlord or an agent, and you can further that relationship. And they're the best ones, you know, and because then you get a lot coming back. So, go and do that. And I wouldn't write this deal off, you know, let's have a look at it once you've done it, and we can see where we stand. once you've costed up the refurb. At the end of the day, you might be able to either, create a really nice purchase lease option out of this, especially if the vendor doesn't have the money. Because if it's in a bad state of repair and they don't have the money to put it right, well, they're not going to rent it out. So they now have a big problem. If you can solve that problem for them, then you're going to get a good deal out of it, because they have no option right now if they've got no money to put that property right. If they have got the money, then you can say, well, you put it right, this is what I need it to be like, and then when it's right, I'll rent it from you. I've just done on a deal here where we've asked them to split this huge house into 2 different flats, put kitchens and everything. He's agreed to do it, and I've said I'll rent it once it's done. So sometimes vendors kind of want that commitment that if they go and spend the money and do that, they've got a tenant straight away that's going to commit long term, so it works hand in hand, solving each other's problems.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one because he's got the house advertised everywhere. So there is something going on in different agencies. And I was just looking, as you were talking about the open rent, I was just looking at the properties there as well.
I mean, that's like, that should be music to your ears. Because that means they have a serious problem.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious.
That problem quickly. So you need to find out what that problem is. The estate agent probably isn't going to tell you the truth. So you need to really open up the estate agent by trying to get on board with them. But if they're quite closed and they're not going to tell you the truth, then you may want to pull the land registry and send the owner a letter just saying, listen, I'm not here to cut the estate agent out. I just didn't feel like they were telling me the true story. And I'm a very creative, I've got a business that creatively buys property or rents it. And I think if we had a conversation, then we could really help you, solve your problem. Because I've noticed it's advertised everywhere. So you're obviously keen to get out of it, You're not looking to cut anyone out the deal. You just want to speak to them direct.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. Sasha's asking, isn't business rates more than council tax? It is, but that doesn't matter. Like, if you're running a trading business, it has to be on business rates. I can't stress that anymore. But anyway, I'll let everyone make their own decision on that one. But you need to be on business rates. So keep the questions coming, and we are nearly there. I will do a Q&A at the end if anyone's got any questions, and then we can go in it. So, preventing costly mistakes. Now, as I said earlier, one way or another, you're going to pay for it. You're either paying in your education, or you pay for it by trying to wing it and do it yourself without really the correct education, and then you get bitten. I've done both. I've got myself educated, and I've not had the mistakes, and I've tried to cut corners, and it's cost me. So it is what it is, and we all do different things, and we all make choices in life. We have the A road or the B road, and sometimes we choose A, sometimes we choose B. But what we have to do is always learn from them. And the best thing you can do is learn from other people's mistakes. So what I'm about to tell you, please take note, and please don't do it, because that is the point of view, coming here tonight to learn something. And if you can just take one thing away, it's don't do what I've done, which have cost me money when I could have avoided it. Okay, so Brand guy, I would not now probably spend more than $2,000 refurbing someone else's property. Okay. So I have done it in the past. $8,000 my most. However, if a property needs $8,000 worth of refurb, to be fair, the property that I spent $8,000 on actually probably needed $25,000 on, but I didn't. I put a plaster over a problem, and now the problem's come back sort of 2.5 years on. So I'm now having to think, do I spend another, chunk of money on it? Not my property. If it was my property, I would. But, or do I just give it back? The sort of angel devil conversation I have is, I definitely should give it back because it doesn't really fit the portfolio anymore in terms of the brand standards. The devil sort of saying, well, it makes loads of money, so you should probably keep it. So it's kind of like, but then I'm also thinking, well, do I use some of the money to actually refurb it? But then I think I really don't want to refurb a landlord's property. So I'm kind of in that constant battle on this particular property. But there's a few others that I've got, where I have done refurbs on behalf of landlords, again, in the early days. I think there's enough stock out there now where you literally can just move in and put furniture in, maybe paint a feature wall, and they are the ideal properties to take on. Now, I would do a refurb on a purchase lease option for sure, because that is no different to buying it in my eyes. You're just delaying the purchase. So that's a total different ball game. But on rent to rent deals, I would not really do much more than a $2,000 refurb. And for me, $2,000 gets you basically new carpets and some new paint. That's really what you should be doing. So that would be my top tip. Newer properties are better. They don't age as quickly. They don't wear as quickly. And, whilst it's easy to say, go and get, a new development block of flats or, so a brand new build block of houses from Bellway or something like that. But again, that type of stock is also a lot less than your traditional 1930s, 1940s terraced houses. Up here in the Northeast, we've got Tyneside flats, which are basically terraced houses converted into 2 flats. Very common. So, that they are the majority of the stock. So naturally, you're probably going to find them. But what you want to really hone in on is trying to get newer properties where you can, because they're just better long term. Okay, they last longer. They're more durable. Less boiler issues, less electric issues. And these sort of things. All it takes is a boiler not to be working for you to then have to refund a guest, or the lighting system goes down and then you're arguing with the landlord, or the bathroom's leaking and they won't fix it. There's all sorts of battles that do go on. But with the newer properties, we just don't seem to have those battles. So if I was choosing the perfect property, I would always go newer. But again, you've got to make commercial decisions at the same time. You've got to be moving forward. If I want to achieve my goal of 1,000 properties, I have to appreciate that I can't always be picky and get new properties. I'm going to have to take some of the older ones on, but what I do now with the old ones is I either get the landlords to do them up to a standard that meets the brand standards that we've got. We're going to talk a lot tomorrow about branding and marketing. One thing I wish I'd set at the beginning was brand standards, which we've got now and have had for quite some time. But now it's basically, if you want to work with us, it needs to be like that. When it's like that, come back to us. Whereas in the early days, I'd be like, I'll take the property, I'll do everything. Don't worry, give it to me. So, but again, that's the emotion versus the logical side of things coming out. What we got next? Choose safe areas. So, again, the angel and the devil side. I always say, I've got properties in some areas that, most people go, you've got what there? How does that work? Who wants to stay there is normally what they say. And I'm a bit like, I have absolutely no idea, but they do. Contractors actually like to stay out of city centres. They like to be able to park their van outside, walk straight in the house and walk out in the morning. They like to be able to watch their tools. They just want an easy life. So they actually tend to stay out of the cities in the main, which in a lot of cities, some of the rougher areas can be kind of on the fringes. But those type of properties can work. And a lot of people, I've got a lot of stock in quite a rough area of Newcastle. And when I tell people who are landlords in Newcastle, they're just like, how do you ever do that? And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, if I was going to Liverpool and staying on the fringes of Liverpool, I don't know what areas are rough or not rough, but if there's an Airbnb and it's telling me that it's that and it looks nice, then I go, right? So it's kind of like, that's why it works. But what you want to do, and this is my rule now, is if I wouldn't stay there, then don't expect a guest to stay there. So if you're walking down the street and you're not feeling safe, then there's a chance that your guest's also going to feel the same, and it'll only lead to a bad review, and that's really what you don't want. And my second parameter is, if my kids were 18, obviously they're not, they're a lot younger, but if they were 18, would I let them rent that house long term? And that for me is another kind of standard I live by. And if the answer is no, then I don't go into that property, because that is what other people will be thinking. And I don't think it's fair to put people in an unsafe environment. And, you know, I have had, I've just given one back literally this weekend where the windows have been put out 3 times now by the local scallywags. And, you know, the latest incident was a guest in the house when it happened, and that's not fair on them. No one should be put through that. So, you know, for me, those type of properties, they don't belong in my portfolio, and, you know, and get rid of them. So learn from that, choose safe areas, and make sure that you feel safe and your guests will feel safe, and you'll have a much better portfolio long term that'll make more money and you'll have less hassle with, because, you know, there's nothing worse than dealing with tow rags and everything else that goes on with it. So leasehold agreements and contracts, this is something that fortunately I've not had the personal experience of. However, a lot of my students unfortunately have, so I've seen it and had to unwind them and help them. There's a lot of estate agents and deal sources who are quite happy to agree deals with landlords in blocks of flats which have lease agreements, and they tell you that it's fine, the landlord's agreed it's not a problem, and then 6 weeks down the line, you've spent whatever, $3.5 putting furniture in there, you've got your bookings in there, you've got a nice business going on, and all of a sudden you get a letter from the landlord saying their property management company said you're running an Airbnb property in my house. That's not what we agreed. Can you move your furniture out? The contract's terminated, you know? Or, you know, I know I agreed it, but the property management company won't allow it anymore, so can you leave? You then go back to the estate agent or the deal sourcer and say, you sold me this deal, or I've paid you X for this deal, and I'm now 6 weeks in and I haven't got the deal, and they'll just say and wash their hands with it and go away. So for me, if I was getting into such an agreement, I probably do see this more down south than I see up north. So based on most users from down south today, that works quite well. So, you know, but if you are going to get into these block flat agreements, and don't get me wrong, blocks of flats are incredible for what we do. You know, I love them. But if you're going to get into them, you want some sort of comeback on the deal sourcer or the estate agent if you get kicked out of no fault of your own, and you want it in writing in a contract signed. And if they won't do it, it's because there's a rabbit off, you know. So make sure you've got it in there, and if be prepared to walk away from deals. You can make so much money by saying no. That might not hit home just yet, but you can, by saying no to more things in your life, you will make more money. Okay? Because quite often we just go along with things and we just, you know, get ourselves in these situations that we shouldn't be in. So with leasehold agreements, check them out. Check out who the management company is. You know, if it's Kingston Property Management, you've got absolutely no chance. They absolutely hate serviced accommodation in the main. So, you know, they come down the landlords quite hard. You know, so you just got to make sure that you get everything checked before you actually go into any of the deals. And again, I'll kind of touch base on it. I have a very love-hate relationship with estate agents, and I think there are some good ones out there, but the majority of them are crap. And this is why, if you believe in your magic 8 and you can speak to your landlords direct, you will blow estate agents out of the water, because what they do for landlords is pretty piss poor in the main, you know, and they're paying for that service as well. You know, estate agents float from agency to agency. There's no real consistency in the message, and, you know, they're not really bothered about you. They don't really understand your business, and they definitely don't echo it over to the other side. So I always find that, you know, estate agents, they want everything on their terms, and, you know, it's at the minute they're a bit like all high and mighty because it is a very hot market at the minute. But, you know, there are times when it's not so hot, and that's when they come crawling back asking you to take deals because they're desperate for commission. But in the politest and nicest possible way, all estate agents are full of shit. I can't really put it any clearer. Okay, all they care about is that commission in the main, you might find 5 or 10% of them who are actually really nice, and they do genuinely want to work for value, and they want to offer value to people, and those are worth their weight in gold. But you've got to kiss a lot of frogs, as they say, to find your prince or princess. But when you do find them, hold on to them. But in the main, just be very wary what estate agents are telling you. And, you know, I mean, one of my team bought a property based on an estate agent telling them that the lease could be extended. And then, you know, we buy the property, and sure enough, that conversation had never been had. You know, something, you know, I take full responsibility for everything that happens in my business, but, you know, something that we should have checked really and got confirmation of on a written email. But anyway, we didn't. I'll still get out of the situation. It's not a bad deal. But, you know, just another example of estate agents lying. It's even worse in Dubai. I mean, it's even worse in Dubai. So, you know, I literally do not trust a word any of them say. Deal sources for me, I've never seen a good deal come across my desk yet. So I get sent a lot of rent-to-rent stock. I get sent a lot of BRR stock, and it's very rare that I see a good deal. Or they might be good deals if you took their fees out of it, but the minute you put their fees in, they just become, the deals are just not worth getting into. But I would be very wary of taking a serviced accommodation deal is different to a standard, say, BRR deal, because a BRR or even a HMO deal, they know what the rents are. You can quite easily find out how much a 2-bed flat is renting for in a certain postcode, or a room in a HMO is renting for in a certain postcode. So the figures are a bit more accurate. A deal sourcing company that does not run a serviced accommodation portfolio cannot possibly know what occupancy levels are like and what the nightly rates are like. It's impossible. It is a moving beast. Like dynamic pricing, you know, I have somebody employed in my business that just does pricing. Every single day of the week, they are in my portfolio, on the platforms, on the tools, just doing pricing. That, like, it is a moving beast. It changes daily, it changes weekly. So I don't understand how a deal sourcer can say, oh, it's 75% occupancy, it's going to make X, Y, and Z. Like, how do you know that? And how do you know what the occupancy is? So just be very, very wary. And businesses that do serviced accommodation and are sourcing deals, I don't really understand that, because SA is a very profitable game if you get a good deal. So why do you want to give it to somebody else? You know, and you'll get all the excuses, oh, cash flow and this and that and the other. But the thing is, with serviced accommodation, you can make them cash flow in the first week of operation. So you can actually, if you're clever about it, especially if you get leasing furniture or putting furniture on credit cards, you know, or even just get delayed invoicing from furniture companies, you can actually have the money in your bank from the operation to pay for the payments. So there is no cash flow issue if you do it correctly. So just be very wary of deals that are coming your way. I'm telling you now, this game, there's nothing for free. There's nothing easy. All right. If it's too good to be true, it is the age old saying that it's too good to be true. Okay. You're not going to buy a deal and make 20 grand off it in the first 6 months, you know, because if you were, why wouldn't they be doing it? And it really frustrates me that there's a lot of these type of companies popping up and just ripping people off, basically. And, you know, we see it time and time again on Facebook, and it's not nice to see. It's not how business should be done. And, you know, I would like to protect you guys from making those mistakes. So that's why I'm quite passionate about it. And that's why I really like to, you know, open up a bit more about it, because I think it needs to be said. And I don't mind saying it on the open forums either. But Branka, you have raised your hand.
Yes. So my question was, you were talking, when you were talking about the safe areas,
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at a deal that's far away from you, like you were saying in Liverpool, how would you know?
There's a website called Street Checker.
Okay.
And it tells you basically how many people have been stabbed in the last 6 months and how many shootings there've been and all that good stuff. So it tells you what the crime rates are. It tells you what the police incidents are and stuff like that. So it's pretty good. And you can also, you know, listen, the world is so connected now on social media that you can drop a question on any Facebook group and, hey, what's so-and-so area like? Anyone live there? And you'll get like a load of comments, and you'll be able to, base the comments. You can also jump on, I actually put a TikTok video up the other day of a street in Liverpool, and you can jump on Google Earth and actually walk the streets and see, how many boarded windows there are, and how many, just what you can almost get a feel yourself by doing it on Google Earth. So there's loads of little clever ways you can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So again, coming on to the final point of this, with deal sourcing fees versus an internal team, this is a mindset shift that needs to happen. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just pay $3,500 for a deal, and then I've got a deal and I'm making money. And that's fine. But what you don't get by paying a fee is you don't get to understand the process of how it all acquires. How did the source it? What was the marketing set? How did they do the negotiation? What's the contract terms, etc. So you miss out on that key bit of information. But also, a lot of people think, okay, well, I'll buy a deal for $3,500. You could employ somebody for a lot of hours for $3,500 a month. So if you're buying one deal a month, then you could actually probably have at least 2 full-time employees for $3,500 banging the phones, and I guarantee you'd find more than one deal. So think about where you're spending your money, or where you're investing your money, more the point, because investing in staff is one of the biggest mindset shifts I had over thinking staff were costly. So, if you invest in your team, you will get an ROI out of them. Yes, you're going to have to train them. Yes, you're going to have to show them what to do, but you will get an ROI out of them. Right now, you're all pretty much at the beginning of your journey. You need to be investing in yourself, because that is going to be the greatest ROI that you'll ever have, because the skill sets that you learn, you can then pass on to an internal team, and then you multiply your efforts. If you constantly buy deals and you don't understand the skill sets, then you're never really going to be able to grow your business, because you're always relying on a deal sourcer. And let's be honest, deal sourcers don't become your best friend. The minute a developer comes along and says, I'll have 10 deals, all of a sudden your one deal goes by the wayside, and they're not really your friend anymore. So you're always putting your hands in their, you're always under their control. You need to bring control into your domain. You need to be able to know that this month I am going to find 25 deals. And how am I going to do that? Well, I've got an army of people sat over there who are doing X, Y, and Z, and they're all focused on it. And I'll train them how to do it, because I know how to do it, because I've got the skill sets, I've had the experience, I've been in the field, and by investing in yourself in this journey, it might take you back a few months. So you might invest in yourself, and it might mean your next deal doesn't come for 3 months. But the information that you will learn in that 3-month period will set you up so much better for the long term, that you will actually then catch up as though if you were to be buying deals off deal sources. Because, and as I said earlier, most of the deals you see are absolute crap anyway. So you'll also make a lot more money. Right, let's have a look at some questions. Is there an explanation on Kajabi as to how we can estimate the bills, cleaning, linen, etc.? So within that spreadsheet, there is actually a little, I'll show you, a little break. Where are we at? So on the essay analysis here, there has like these little notes that pop out on the, these are popping out because I downloaded this early, but basically what this says is that there's like, if it's between 2 people, it's like £15 a night. If it's 3 to 5, it's, I can't remember, £25 a night, something like that. Now on the Google sheet, these bits are actually notes, and it pops out with the actual note. And it tells you bits and bobs, your OTA commissions, it tells you your weeknights, all that sort of stuff. So that's how you can kind of estimate. But again, what you should do is, like I said to Branka earlier, where it was a bit hit and miss, is find out from an actual company, ring them, get the information and see what's what. Is it difficult to start up in an area that is far away from where you live and have no contacts there? Not really. I think you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to help? Again, Facebook's very connected. You've got to remember, I built a business in Dubai from the UK, by just leveraging a few people that I knew and passing my skill sets on. And then obviously visiting there. So even if you're in an area where you may not want to invest, but then you want to maybe go further north or further south or whatever it is. I mean, you can pretty much drive anywhere in the UK in 4 or 5 hours. So, worst case scenario is you say, right, my area is going to be there. I'm going to book a load of viewings in through the week and I'm going to bang up there on Friday night, chuck myself into an Airbnb and go on 25 viewings over the weekend, get some deals. If you want this enough, you'll make it happen. That is it. It's not nuclear science, this game. It is just very much results based on action. If you put enough action in and, you don't give yourself any reasons to why you can't, I have a saying, results, not reasons. It's actually something I say to myself quite often, especially in the gym. If I'm trying to wimp out of a few sets, I'll tell myself, results, not reasons. And it just pushes me. And it's a lot the same. And I think, in life, far too many people tell themselves excuses why they can't do stuff. Time, main one, time, money, and they're constantly creating, I created reasons. Again, I'm going to touch base on this tomorrow because I think it's hugely important. But you can go anywhere and if you want it to happen, you will make it happen. So if you want to invest in the North Pole and you'll set an Airbnb business up there, if you want it enough, you'll make it happen. It is that simple. But, unfortunately, a lot of people aren't willing to do what it takes to actually create what they actually want. And, that is one of the biggest things I think that holds most people back. And that's why a lot of people don't make it. And a lot of people aren't successful entrepreneurs because they're not willing to do what it takes, or they stop at the first hurdle. At the end of the day, you only fail when you quit. So if you never quit, you will not fail. You just learn and you get better and better and better. And eventually you get what you want. Some people have moved quick on this journey. I've had an unbelievably quick journey, like even today I wake up and I'm like pinching myself at like what has actually happened over the last 3 years. But, some people that I coach have the same, I've got a student in the group right now who's, been with me a month, absolutely killing it. I think she's about to acquire a third deal. And then we've got others that are maybe in there for like 6 weeks. It might take them 8 weeks. It might take them to get their first deal. Some people move slower than others, but at the end of the day, everyone gets what they want at the end if they just stay disciplined and committed to the cause. So I guess in answer to your question is you can do whatever you want in whatever location you want, as long as you want it enough.
If you found the first half useful and you've learned a lot, then stick around for the next session as we open up your entrepreneurial minds to scaling these types of businesses. Once you are hooked on this, it is a drug. You want more and more, but each and every level brings a new challenge. Going from 0 to 5 properties is different from 10 to 30, different again from 50 to 100. And this challenge continues as you continue to scale with different skill sets required at each and every level. In the next session, we cover how to build a business backwards, starting with the end in mind, and ensure your roadmap is plotted out, as if you do it this way, you will achieve what you set out to achieve. If you just go about your business with no plan, you will constantly be firefighting and solving problems, which slows your growth down. Ready to get stuck into the second half of the training? Let's do it.
It is about fundamentals of scaling your businesses. So last night we talked about getting going, where to find deals, and the basis of many things, sort of the fundamentals that I think you need. Tonight is very much about scaling, because I think if I had known this at the beginning, then I would be probably retired by now. But it really does make a difference what I'm going to tell you here. And a lot of it you might think, well, that's easy to say now that you've got money or you've done it or whatever. But trust me on this one, if you can try and figure a way out to put what I'm about to tell you tonight in play from day one, your business will scale so quick. So we're going to look at obviously a few points, scaling a business. So the key points around scaling, and business is business. We just have a product called property, but business fundamentals are the same. I have been involved in businesses at quite high levels prior to me getting into property, which definitely give me skill sets to then bring into my own business. And there's a lot of key habits that I see mixing with 7, 8, and 9 figure business owners over the last couple of years. and being able to ask them questions and get on phone calls with them and just hanging out with them, you can see that there's a lot of key principles that a lot of the these successful people have within their frameworks. And rewiring your business habits, part of what we do needs a lot of rewiring. I talk about this a lot with my fitness clients, and part of the fitness side of things is about rewiring what's going on up here, and business is no different. We're going to build for the future now, so I'll talk about sort of my 1,000 property mindset and how I look at things, and I've kind of done this for quite some time now, not just in the last sort of few months. This has been something that I think has served my business growth quite well. And we are going to look at the mind and the body impact on your revenue. A lot of people don't associate the two things, but for me, they are directly linked and 100% correlated. And then I'm going to show you about brand development and marketing as well, which again is super important for everything that you're wanting to achieve. So let me just keep getting all these people in. So scaling your SA business, and scaling a business is super important. And at the end of the day, if you can't scale, you're not going to make more profit. It's as simple as that. If you can't scale, you're going to stay stagnant. You'll actually probably end up going back over because your competition will outweigh you, or you'll start to lose a few properties and then you'll start going back over. So we've always got to be focused on scaling. The number one thing, and I learned this too late, was you cannot do it alone. Okay. As entrepreneurs, we're great in the fact that we want to start things, but we're terrible in the fact that we won't give it up. So we want to do everything. And we don't believe that anybody else is anywhere near as good as what we can do. And therefore we want to do all the tasks. You cannot build a huge empire or even just a small to medium-sized business if you want to stay alone. Okay. If you want to build a large service accommodation business, or probably even just a portfolio of 10 to 20 properties, you're going to need help, okay? And it's okay to get help, and it's okay to accept that somebody else can do stuff for you as well. One thing I struggled with very much so was releasing control. However, I've worked on that a lot over the last probably 12 to 18 months, and I really feel now that I am in a position where I often delegate everything now, to the point where I think I'm not actually doing anything, and I now start to think, well, I'm not doing enough, so I need to do more. So it's it's that teeter-totter type trait that's going on. But you can't do it alone. So always think, right, when can I get hired? I'm going to show you something later on the board, which is my maximization model, which will give you an idea of when you should start hiring, so you can try and time it correctly, because timing is key. But you'll kind of know when you're ready. I've touched base on this, I think, briefly last night, if any of the Eagle listeners. So the investor versus cost minded, okay? You have to start switching your brain from that everything is an investment and not a cost. Because if you keep thinking about scarcity mindset, cost-based mindset, you will never grow, okay? You'll always live in fear. You'll always live in scarcity. You'll always be worried about money, and it'll prevent you from taking action that's required to find abundance. Now, hiring staff is exactly the same. Staff are not a cost on your business. Staff are a positive ROI. If I pay an employee $2,000 a month, I want $4,000 a month out of them. If I pay someone $5,000 a month, I want $10,000 a month out of them. If I pay a marketing agency $15,000 a month, I want $50,000 a month out of them. They are all returns on investment. Now, sometimes that investment doesn't necessarily come back from financial reward. For example, my portfolio manager is not targeted on sales of any sort, and she does not bring in any money at the front end. But what she does for the rest of the business to allow them to get involved in their roles and not get swept up in non-income producing roles means that they can all produce money, me included. So the amount that she takes off my plate allows me and my mind to fuel the business in a new direction, come up with new ideas, be able to, network and do things that are actually growing the business exponentially. So don't always look at it as I'm employing you and you need to bring money in. You can actually say, I'm going to employ you so I can bring more money in. And at the start of your business, that's predominantly what's going to happen. You're going to hire people to take away the administration functions, get you out of the operations, because the quicker you do that, the better. Then you can focus on continuing to grow the business and expand the business. If you are an entrepreneur who is not the best at sales, or not the best at negotiation, or not the best at building relationships, then you might actually recruit somebody to take that role on for you. So they might actually become the one that goes out and gets the business and brings that in, and then you deal with the operations. So everyone is different. Went through last month with my mentees. It was all about production. So that was the theme for last month, and we did a lot of tests on ourselves, and we really find out what is it? What is our DNA? What are we made up of? What are our core strengths and skills? And by understanding ourselves, we can actually then move forward in a much clearer direction, and with a much clearer roadmap, which ultimately gets much better results. And it's really important that you understand yourself and that you switch your mindset. The same goes for your training or your advertising spend or your education. Anything you're doing that you're spending money on, it is not a cost, okay? It's always an investment. And when you switch your brain, I cannot tell you how different this makes things. You just start thinking of things so much differently. You stop thinking of things like, oh, well, if I do that, it's going to cost me this and I'll not have that much money left and blah, blah, blah. Rather than thinking, okay, if I invest in that, then that's going to help me get to there. And then ultimately that'll help me get to there. And always thinking of the upside of the ROI in the investment. So my maximization model. Give me 1 second. Is my screen frozen? Yeah, brilliant. Give me 1 second, because I do want to actually bring the oh, there we are, we're back. Okay, cool. So I'm not sure if you can let me just put this on full screen. Okay, so maximization model, fairly simple model. It's split into 4 sections, and the 4 sections are down at the bottom. Here is the basically your startup business. So that is predominantly just you. Okay, so that's you, where most of you are right now, based on the conversations that we had last night in the chat. So most of you are just starting out. That's you, and you're typically going to run that business and you're going to build it from the ground up. So in this phase here, you're probably going to start with about 0 to 5 properties. You're probably going to get on your books by yourselves. You're going to be doing the operations. You're going to be acquiring the properties. You're going to be doing the contracts. You're going to be doing your reconciliation of your bank accounts. Basically, you're going to be doing everything, okay? But don't worry, it's only 5 properties. It's not that much work to do, and you'll be fine. What happens here is, this is when you will start maybe getting your first team member. And typically here, you're probably earning somewhere in the region of £2,500 net. And that allows you to invest in a staff member and also then kick the business on further. So that's stage 2 of the maximization model. And that is stage number 1 of you coming out of the operations. I cannot tell you that must be your single focus. Right now, your single focus is how quick can I get out the operations? Because the quicker you get out the operations, the quicker your business scales, okay? The next is when you're probably earning somewhere around 15K net a month, 10 to 15K, and you will then have a team of people that are leading the way, and ultimately you are pretty much coming fully out of the operations. You've got a good team in there, and you've got a good handful of properties, you've got good systems and processes, and you're starting to build quite nicely. You will also probably now start to add other people into the acquisition team so that you can grow quicker. And then ultimately you get to the top quadrant here, the maximization model, which is basically CEO. And that means you do not get involved in the business operations ever. Okay, so you really, unless there is something drastically wrong going down and they need your support, you will not get involved in the business operations. You want to get to this part of the maximization model as quickly as you possibly can. Because if you don't, you will not grow your business. It really is. And it's easy to say, well, I need the money to get to there. Not necessarily, because remember, investment mindset. So even if you took somebody on now, and instead of wasting, so what you don't want to do is make the mistake of taking somebody on and then taking a back seat and doing nothing. The idea of taking somebody else on is so you can use your time to continue to focus the business in a different direction. So, for example, if you're spending, I'll give you a real example of how it played out for me. So at the start, I was doing probably 2 hours of marketing every day, and I'd be doing 2 to 3 hours worth of research and teeing up viewings. I'd then be going on those viewings amongst my lunch hours, on the way to work, on the way back from work, on weekends in batch viewings. I was just fitting them in whenever I could. I then got to the point where I got quite a few units on board, probably around 6 or 7. And then I found myself sat on a night, rather than researching, I ended up sitting in zero reconciling bank statements. So I was like, and then I noticed that I wasn't getting enough viewings. I noticed that the pipeline was slowing down. So I spotted that I was using my time poorly. So I recruited a consultant bookkeeper to just basically do the reconciliation of the banks, which, was taking an hour or so a night. And that allowed me to go back to researching properties and ultimately find more deals to then put more into the business and put more into the cash flow, the pipeline. And that is what you've got to do. The worst thing I could have done was hire the bookkeeper and then did nothing with that time, because that's pointless. That means you're going to get a negative ROI on your investment. Okay. The investment in the bookkeeper was to give me time back so I could go and find more properties. So that's what you're going to be aiming for. Now that's the kind of levels. So you've got kind of 0 to 5, then you jump up as you go into 10 to 15K, and then you want to be coming out the operations, building the team, and then eventually you want to be stepping out. And then there's kind of the next part of the business, which this is kind of what I'm trying to do now, which is basically remove myself completely from the business so that I am just acting chairman. I might check in once a month and I put a CEO in place. So that's by the end of this year, that is what I want in place for my business, so that in 2023, I can see what it's like not getting involved in the business, doing something totally different, and just checking in every single month, seeing how the financials are and making sure everything's going fine. So that's how you want to do. And then what I will do with that time, it's not like I'm going to go and sit on a beach and do nothing. I will then use that time to fuel other businesses that I'm already getting involved with and already have ideas to build. And so that is kind of how you want to be looking at your business life cycle. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, please just jump up with any questions. Okay, so as I said before, know when it's time to hire. So we kind of covered that off there. Really important to know when it's time to hire. You will know yourself, a bit like I did when I was doing the zero reconciliation. I could feel the pipeline drying up. I wasn't moving as fast as I was before. So I was like, there's something not going right. What is it? And I identified that it was that. I bought some more time back for myself. I went and used that time, got more properties on board. I then got soaked up in the operations because obviously my bookkeeper doesn't handle guests. And then I found that again, my time got soaked back up because all I was doing was dealing with guests, dealing with issues, dealing with maintenance. And then lo and behold, I wasn't finding any properties. So the next hire was my virtual VA. Give her a mobile phone, diverted all the calls to her, and she dealt with all the guest side. Bought me some time back, and then I went back to acquiring property again, and so on and so forth. So always know when it's time to hire. Never put it off until it's too late. And in all fairness, I would go sooner because then you're more prepared. Too many people do it, they react to it rather than being proactive. So always react and try and get ahead of everything, as opposed to reacting when it's too late. And you're trying to just firefight and you're trying to plug people in. You end up recruiting the wrong person because you just need somebody and you'll take anybody. Try and know when it's about to come and say, okay, well, if I get another 2 or 3 units, I'm going to need that person. So I'm going to start that recruitment process now. And I'm going to find that right person, because ultimately, even if I do plug them in, I know that I'll then definitely get the units because it's going to give me that time back. Never rely on one company or a person. This is one of the number one rules in business that I have learned the hard way from. I'll never forget my service accommodation cleaning issue where I had a husband and wife cleaning for me at the start, and I obviously blew the business up quite quickly. I kept saying to them, I can get other people in to help. And they were like, no, we can manage. We can do it all. And I actually had all my linen in my garage. So they used to come to my house. They used to get all the linen. They used to go out the properties and come back. And then I get a text on a Saturday night, we're not cleaning for you ever again. 27 cleans to do on a Sunday. Contractors coming in Sunday night, and I was pretty much in deep shit. So I, did, I guess, what I had to do. Rang every single cleaner I possibly could in the Northeast on a Saturday night, and managed to stumble across a lady who still works for me now, who was like, I know a bunch of girls that I know will help, and blah, blah, blah. And we managed to pull it off. We got cleaned and we escaped. But that was lesson number one, that you should never put your eggs in one basket when it comes to anyone really, but certainly operational sides of things. You need to be able to bounce things off. And sometimes you'll find good cleaners and it's natural to want to give them loads of work. But trust me on this, you want to make sure you have multiple cleaners in your phone book that you can rely on at any time. Now, you can only rely on somebody if you're constantly drip feeding them work. So you might have to start splitting the work up between multiple cleaners to ensure that they feel like they're getting work, they feel like they're part of the project. And if you ring them and say, I'm desperate, I need some more cleans doing, they'll say yes. It's no good just having their phone number, never giving them any work, and then expecting them to jump when you say. So never rely on one company or one person. A similar experience with my accounts bookkeeper I was talking about that I recruited, worked for me for, let's say, two and a half years, a bit longer than that, 3 years nearly, and just decided to walk out one day. So all my accounts, all my bookkeeping, everything, all the passwords, the lot, she pretty much, because I just kind of let her get on with it. She was, I got my reports and I tracked my own financials, but she was the one that updated all the systems and, did all the payroll, did all the HMRC VAT returns, all that sort of stuff, and then just walked out one day. So 2 valuable lessons I've had within the last 3 years alone that have taught me never rely on one person. Okay, and always have everybody's role, which we'll come on to later, documented, so that if someone does walk out or someone goes on holiday, then you can just pick that role up quite easily, or you can give it to somebody else to pick up. So, rewiring your business habits. Do it yourself versus done for you. So, we have this innate natural ability to want to do everything ourselves at the beginning. And it always comes down to a cost mindset, because we're always trying to save money. I've been there, I've done it. I remember the phone calls off my wife at 2 a.m. in the morning, like, where are you? Clearly thinking I was having an affair. I know I'm actually just putting the curtains up in one of my serviced accommodation units because I've got a guest coming in tomorrow, rather than just paying someone 30-40 quid to have done it that afternoon and probably done a much better job. So I'm rubbish at DIY, but it's that kind of mindset, and it goes for a lot of stuff. I also used to think that I had to do everything myself and learn everything myself with regards to marketing, with regards to accountancies, with regards to all sorts of things within the business. But as I've got more experience, I've realized that if you can just go to an expert and say, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to do? And they just go, that, and that. And by the way, we'll help you do that, and that. For me, that is the best investment you can make. But what you have to do on the back end of that is make sure you're extracting the content of what they are doing. So if you ever don't work with them again, you've still got the value there, and then you can pick it up. But for me, DIY, get it out of your life as quick as you possibly can. Stop setting your properties up, get other people to do them for you. You move much quicker. You focus your time on acquiring more properties, and it just speeds everything up. And, you think you're saving money, but you're not, okay? You're not saving money, because a specialist trades team could set up a property a hell of a lot quicker than you can. And you might pay an extra couple of £100 for that to happen. But if you get the property live 4, 5, 6, 7 days before, because they set it up versus you setting it up around your job or around other things that are happening, you could have potentially taken a grand's worth of bookings in that same time. So, it's not that you're losing money. It's just that you're just putting money in different ways. And the sooner you do it, the better. You'll also be a lot less stressed. You'll also enjoy this thing a lot more, because I don't know how many people enjoy DIY, but I certainly don't. Again, time versus money exchange. You've always got to be thinking about this. Too many of us focus too much on the money. We don't respect the time enough. Time is pretty much, I would say, the only thing that we cannot buy in life. We cannot get any more back. We go to sleep tonight and that's it, done. We're one step closer to dying. That is the reality of it. Same, tomorrow takes another day off and then we're even closer. We can't buy time back. So when you get further, especially as you go further up the maximization model, you start to really value your time a lot more. You start to see what your actual worth is. You put a number on it. And for me, I don't do anything that's not under that number. And, but by doing that, it also means that I'm growing and the businesses are growing, my life's growing, and I'm allocating my time in the right places. So really have a think about where you're spending your time versus, a money exchange. And also, bring this into your day-to-day as well. Like, how many of you are spending time, or should I say wasting time, watching Netflix? How many of you are wasting time scrolling through social media? Even if it's 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 20 minutes here, that time you could be used scrolling through RightMove, searching for properties, putting an advert on Gumtree, fueling your business. Think about where you can get these little pockets of wins. I'll give you a good example of this. My first book that I wrote, I figured out that if I did 15 minutes a day, then I'd be able to complete it in 4 months and I'd be able to get it published. Okay. Now I worked out, where do I have 15 minutes a day? Because I didn't like the writing process. I hated it. So I figured out that in between my reps in the gym, I would have a 1 minute rest. So I had a Google Doc on my phone, and in my rest periods in the gym, I wrote out my pages. That gave me 15 to 20 minutes worth of writing every single day that I was in the gym, which was probably 6 days a week. And within the 4 months, I finished my book. Okay, so I just bought a little pocket of time without really affecting anywhere else in my life. Similarly, I'm now writing my second book, okay? I'm actually not writing it this time, I'm speaking it, and I'm getting a copywriter to then put it into format, because I hated the writing process the first time. I learned from that. So where am I doing this? Every time I jump in my car, I put my Google document open and I speak into my phone and I'm speaking my book. I'm buying myself time, okay? Because I value my time. I don't want to be doing that in exchange of some of the sales and marketing stuff that I might do in the business. Or I don't want to do that when I should be, watching my kids swimming, or, taking my kids to play football, whatever it might be. So always think about where you're spending your time, because I guarantee you, I can find time in all your diaries, a lot of it, that you could be utilizing a lot better. And, I quite often, we get quite a lot of objection of, I don't have time to build a business out. That means you just don't want to. Because I guarantee you're all sleeping far too much as well, but we'll not go into that one. So think about where you're spending your time, because that time that you're spending that you can never get back is the difference between probably being successful and not being successful. Priority tasks versus feel-good tasks. So I see this all the time when, especially with new businesses setting up, where you'd rather design a nice business card than actually pick the phone up and ring some estate agents. You'd rather get your website looking perfect than do a load of marketing posts and create content and batch content it and schedule it all. Basically, the priority tasks in your businesses, and even in the next 3 to 5 years, the priority tasks are sales, marketing. Nothing else really matters. And most of the stuff that you put on your to-do list, you can probably cross them off, because none of them are actually going to move the needle that much. They're all just feel-good tasks. They make you feel like you're doing something. They make you feel like you're showing up, and therefore the results are going to come. Unfortunately, that won't happen. I was doing this until I read that 10X book, and really the priority tasks, which are normally tasks you don't want to do, they're the ones that move the business needle. They're the ones that put more money in your bank accounts. They're the ones that expand your teams, allow you to invest in, all these other different things, allow you to put money into new businesses, allow you to achieve your dreams, get more time back, get your freedom. They're the tasks that make the difference, The feel-good tasks, they unfortunately do nothing for you apart from make you feel good for a split second. It's like eating a bag of Haribos. You get a little sugar rush, and then after that, your energy levels peak off, and then you feel like crap, and then you wish you'd never done it, and then, so it's the same thing. Same with alcohol. You get a little feel good for a couple of hours, then you wake up the next morning and wish you'd never bothered. The priority tasks are something that you've got to do. Sales and marketing. 2 hours of marketing every day, 2 hours of sales every day. If you want to make a difference in your business, that's what you need to be doing as a minimum. You can all find 4 hours in your day, I guarantee it. 10x action. I've spoke about this a lot. Grant Cardone is actually one of my mentors. So, I know he's a bit of a Marmite character. Some people love him, some people hate him. But what that guy's done in business, what that guy's done in real estate cannot be taken away from him. And, the guy is an absolute machine. I think he's 66 now, or he's definitely kicking on in his high 60s, which he doesn't look at either. He's fit as a fiddle. But that man knows how to sell, and he knows how to take action. Everything he does is 10x, so it's just massive action around everything that he does. And by doing that, he gets results. And the minute I implemented that into my life and into my business, I started to see the results as well. The minute I thought 5 viewings wasn't enough, so I started doing 25. The minute that I thought 2 or 3 offers wasn't enough, and I started putting in 15 and 17 offers a week, the things started to change. The minute I went from doing 10 minutes of marketing a day to 2 hours a day, and now sometimes I probably spend more time in my marketing department than I spend in any other departments in the business. Because I think if you can generate leads into your business, whatever business you've got, you have a business for life. It is as simple as that. If you can create lead flow into your business, you have a business for life. And marketing is a unique skill set, but when you know it and when you can master it and when you can pull it off and you're generating leads, your brand's getting out there, it's a game changer. Self-development. You're all in the right place right now. You've all attended tonight and yesterday, which is fantastic. That shows to me that you're on the road of self-development, and it is super important. I'm going to go into this a bit more later on, but I cannot tell you how important it is to develop yourselves every single day. You should be learning something new every day, and you should be teaching it to somebody else so that you know it, and you should then be taking the action from what you've learned. That should be around business practices only, okay? So you should be learning something, ideally around sales and marketing, that you can then put into your business, and you do it every single day, 365 days a year, no rest. You do that for the next 365 days, come back here next year, we'll jump on a masterclass and tell me what your results have been, and I guarantee you're in a total different place financially. No questions asked. That's all you need to do. Develop yourself every single day, you will move forward. Okay, so build for the future now. This is kind of what I was on about before, where, I wish I'd done this a lot sooner. But luckily I did kind of figure it out early on. And, I have always been very systematic. So if you actually look at my personal profile tests that I've done recently, and I do these probably once a year. They don't really change that much. They do change slightly, but I do them kind of once a year, but redone them this year with all the students when we're doing them as well. And one of my key things is I am very systematic. I do like to put things in systems, and I think that definitely helps with running businesses, because you have to put things in systems. Systems are what fuels your business, and then you wrap processes around the systems to make sure that the systems operate properly and that the processes work in sync, and then everything works in harmony. I cannot tell you how important it is to start building systems out for your business, and also building processes out. So the process when you take a booking is X, and then you do Y, and then you do Z, and the process of acquiring a property is we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and then we do this. And then that fits into a system, which, can be a software, or it can be something that you've made, or, whatever that looks like for you, but it works and it keeps everything ticking and flowing. The main thing about all of this, and boy, do I wish I did this sooner, is document everything that you're doing now, because you will, obviously, if you're going this route and you're going up the maximization model, you will need to hand this over to somebody else. And it's a much easier process to give them a bunch of videos or a document or just anything that says this is how you do it than having to train them for a week. And one of the businesses I used to work in had no systems and processes documented. Every single salesperson that we brought on, we had to give them a full week's training. They'd do the week's training. They'd realize it wasn't for them. So we'd have to recruit somebody else and go through the whole process again. It was such a waste of time. I learned my lesson from that. So what I do is we have a Loom account, and that Loom account, we shoot videos. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. Every time we're doing a task, we'll shoot a video and it gets stored in folders. And within those folders, we have sales folders, accounts folders, So if anyone comes into the operationals team, needs to know how to work uplisting, needs to know how to work the website, needs to know how to take a direct booking, needs to know how to list the property on Airbnb, it's all there in a video. Explain, needs to know how to take a payment on Stripe, needs to know how to, it's there. They don't need to be ringing anybody. They don't need to be asking anybody. They just go and search what I call the company brain. And the company brain is constantly being fueled with more and more stuff because your systems and processes will change as well. Okay. Now, I have this thing called the 1,000 property mindset. So I'm constantly asking my team if they ever say something, like we need this or we need that or this isn't quite working. And I say, if we had 1,000 properties today, would that system hold up? Would that process work? And if the answer is no, we need to change it. Because if we haven't got a process or if we haven't got a system or a process that's built now to go to 1,000 properties, we're never going to get to 1,000 properties because we'll always be firefighting and wasting time reacting to stuff because it doesn't work. So you have to build out your business now as though you had hundreds of properties too. Whatever your goal is, that you've got to build your business out now as though you've got that. So get your systems in place, get your processes in place, get them documented how you think they're going to flow. Yeah, you'll adapt and they'll tweak and you might replace some of the systems over time, but the fundamentals are still very much the same and they all kind of run congruently so that as you scale, you're just tweaking and moving because, listen, the systems I had to run 15 properties is nowhere near what running 150 is. Similarly, 150 is nowhere near like 300. So, the systems and processes will change, but the idea around them is expansion of the systems. They are there. You're just tweaking them and moving them. It's not like you're getting there and going, I need a full new process. So make sure that you've got them in play and always be thinking ahead. Always have a vision of where you're going and always think, well, is what I'm doing now sustainable if we add, X, Y, Z? I always say, people will ask me to do tasks. And I have to say, no, I'm like, no, I won't do that task. Can we pay so-and-so? Well, you can, but I'm not doing it. Why? Because by the time I log into the bank, by the time I do X, Y, Z, it's not feasible for me to do that. I am better off spending my time trying to do this part of the business, trying to expand the business. And it takes a while for your team to get used to that pushback because at times, a lot of businesses don't do that. A lot of businesses, they come from a world where they think if the CEO's not doing anything, they're just being lazy. Well, it's not. No, actually, you'll see the rewards because I'm pushing the business this way. I'm finding us more money so we can get more developments. I'm networking with, people that are going to enhance the business. I'm hanging around with, people that are in 8 and 9 figure businesses. I'm on my mentorship, so I'm spending time there getting more information so I can expand, so I can bring new ideas to the team and we can grow. Not processing payments or speaking to a guest or dealing with a cleaner. That doesn't work for me. That's not scalable. A bit like the other day we've recently switched the way we pay people because it's my FD came in and said that's not scalable. If you had the amount of properties you want, that doesn't hold up. We need to change that. So we change it and we put it in play and now we're ready for the growth. So always be looking at your systems and processes, and the main thing is documented. And just with documentation as well, this doesn't just go for systems and processes. This goes for anything really. I mean, utility bills. I made the mistake of not documenting any of that for about the first 60 properties. And then one day it was like, we need the internet didn't work or something, and we need this. And I had to get on the phone. I wasted an hour of my life, and I was like, this is just no good. So I actually got the team to find every single account number, login detail, password, you name it. It took a week. I had to waste a week's worth of my team's time whilst paying them to just literally find out account numbers for utility suppliers. So get everything in spreadsheets from day one, account numbers, login details, passwords, what the payment is, what term you're on, when it expires, what the rates are, all that sort of stuff, because it's so much easier to do it as you go than trying to go back over once you've got, tens of properties on your books. Training. So really important that you train your team. I think a lot of people expect people to just come in to jobs and just deliver, and then they don't last and they disappear, so train your team all the time. There's a reason why I've got, a mirror board here. I've got a mirror board over there. I'm constantly training them. I'm like, right, come on, half an hour training. Let's just bounce what we have and what objections we get and what questions we've got, what problems we've got in the systems. And we're just thrashing stuff out and I train them along the way. So, every day I commit to training my team. And, this is something that I've not only done for myself over the years in training myself, but I feel like every role I've kind of had throughout my careers, I've always been that kind of trainer, leader type role. And I think it's important for any team. If you want your team to be better, then train them. What's the point in me investing, I think I worked out the other day, over £250,000 in my own education in the last 5 years and not passing that on? Like, what's the point in that? There's no point in me keeping it all inside myself. If I know something that's good and it's working, I need to pass that on to my team, and that means they get better. So we all get more efficient. We all get better. So it's really important that you're constantly training your team. And, that goes for your cleaners. It goes for, your data processors, your sales scripts for your whatever role anybody's in, train them and take it as the lead, because you're the entrepreneur. You're the one they look up to. And if you don't know it, you need to go and figure it out. And go figure it out actually helps you expand as well, because then you can then teach it back to them so you know it. And it really helps you train. It's part of why I love doing, mentoring for people, because I have to be at the top of my game all the time, because I might get asked a question that I don't know, and I don't really want to ever be in that situation. So I'm constantly wanting to be ahead of everybody, because then I can, not only does that fuel my businesses, but then I'm always there to be able to support with the right information and deliver what they expect of me, because they're asking me to help them. So, by being a mentor, I'm actually improving my own training and I'm improving my own knowledge, because I know that I am relied on by other people. It's a funny way, the way it works, but it's crucial for any business success. And again, recruitment, don't just hire anybody, okay? You need to make sure that they're the right fit for your business. I would get them doing personality tests. I would get them, really putting through their paces in interviews, and try and, as I said earlier, recruit ahead of time, rather than recruiting when you need to recruit, because that means you're going to take on somebody that you probably shouldn't. And then it doesn't last long. You invest a lot in time in training, inducting them into business, setting them up, blah, blah, blah. And then they go. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. And then you've got to start recruiting again, especially if you're using agencies and you've got to pay fees. And, so you've got to make sure that your recruitment process is inbuilt now, and that you're starting to look to recruit your team. And this can go from anyone, it can go from absolutely anybody, your cleaner recruitment, your linen packer recruitment, your admin recruitment, your guest handling recruitment, whatever your processes, whatever your people look like that fill in the systems, then you've got to fit them in, but, make sure that we're recruiting all the time. Right, I'm going to take some questions now. Let's have a look. When you mentioned your net figures in the maximization model, was that your including salary dividend? No, that's just what's coming out of the properties, I guess. Typically you'll get 5 units on a rent-to-rent deal, £500-600 a unit net profit. So that's what takes most people out of their jobs. Average income's 28 grand a year. So I actually and this is the kind of teeter-totter balance that you have. Again, I wish I'd probably done it a bit sooner, but I didn't take anything out of the business for quite some time. I kept fueling it back into the business, and that allowed me to grow, which probably meant I stayed in my previous consultancy role a bit longer than I probably should have. But at the same time, it worked for me. I was able to maximize my time that I had. Although I do know the day that I went full time doing this, my business results just skyrocketed, because not only was I spending 20 hours a week on the business, I was now spending 80 hours a week on the business, So naturally, you're going to do a hell of a lot more when you're working full time at the business. Cool. All right, no more questions. So, mind and body. Now, for me, this is the secret sauce. Okay, and for me, it amazes me how many people don't give this the respect that it needs. They want the shiny penny stuff. They want the Lamborghinis and the nice big houses, and and the nice holidays, and be able to live without any worries and pay off credit cards and all that sort of stuff. But they do nothing about their mind and body. Yet when you start doing stuff to your mind and body in a positive way, you will actually see a huge impact on your wealth. And there's so many examples of this. I could give you so many examples, but from personal experience, I know that the minute I started focusing more on this and finding the balance, the more wealth I seemed to attract and the more abundance I moved into. So it really is something that I would encourage all of you to change your mindset on, and change how you go about things. But first and foremost, in terms of your mind, you've got to be acquiring skill sets all the time. Okay? It's all right coming on a masterclass for 2 days, and it's all right even if you go away and do the work. But if this is all you're going to acquire this year as a skill set, then I'm telling you now, you're not going to be successful. You might have short-term success, you might get a tiny little win, but you're not going to continue to keep pace. Okay? You see it so many times where there's successful entrepreneurs who have built incredible businesses, but they haven't kept pace with technology. They haven't acquired new skill sets about the way the world's modernized, and their businesses start to go back over. You have to be acquiring new skill sets all the time. I honestly cannot stress that enough, and you've got to continue to develop them. You've got to continue to learn them. You've got to continue to, push in new directions and get uncomfortable as well. Don't just learn what you're interested in. Learn new skill sets that maybe you're not interested in. I had this thing called the trifecta game, and I think this is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. So for me, I 5 years ago was, in a pretty deep place. I was pretty much depressed, and I just didn't want to do anything. I was working 75 hours a week, probably. Didn't have any time for my family. When I did see them, I was in a mood, and I just really didn't want to do anything. The turning moment for me was I wouldn't take my son to his birthday party, and I had a blazing row with the wife, and so on and so forth. And that moment for me was when things started to change, and I discovered this trifecta game. So I realized that when I actually put my self-care and my family as a priority on my calendar, and then I fit all the business activity around that, I would then ultimately find that not only did I have a family life that was on fire, not only did I have a relationship with my wife that was on fire, not only did I have a business that was on fire, not only was I in the best health I've ever been in, and felt the best, everything changed. And all of a sudden it was like, shit, I can actually have all of this, and you see it so often where CEOs of massive companies, they're like 25, 30 stone, they're going to die of a heart attack before they're 50. They're not going to be able to enjoy their wealth. They've got no relationship with their family and their kids, because they're constantly in the office. They're not balancing everything out. But it's that guilt trip that we play on ourselves as entrepreneurs, that if we're not constantly working and we're not constantly doing stuff, then we're gonna lose out, or we're not gonna be pushing hard enough. But actually what happens is, because you're in a better place, because you're in a better mind space, because you're happier, your creativity sort of flows a lot better. And ultimately, when you're fitter and healthier, you can focus for a lot longer. Or in the times when you're really in your work mode, you're in pure focus, that there's no distraction, and you get so much more done than when you're sort of moving around very sedated and, you're not so happy and so on and so forth. So for me, you get the trifecta game going on, and you'll start to see huge differences in everything that you are, wanting to do. And you feel a lot more fulfilled as well, which is the main thing in life. For me, self-care is an everyday priority. It is, something that I do every single morning, 7 days a week. And, I get my body moving, I get the adrenaline going, get the endorphins going, and I'm ready. It opens the mind. It starts me to get creative. And, it makes me alive. And, so many people wake up, get coffee in their mouth to get them going. They mope out the door, and, they don't really get going until 2-3 hours later. You want to be getting your body and your minds going the minute you get out of bed. If not, you're wasting time. We come back to the time that you can't buy. So really important that you get fit and healthy, because the fitter and healthier you get, I guarantee you, the more productivity you'll have in your businesses, and the more confidence you also get. The better you look, the more healthy you feel, the more clearer your mind. You end up wanting to do more stuff. You want to work on yourself more. You find more time for yourself, and you do more. Your productivity levels go up. Now, I burnt out when I was about 21 properties. So I, wasn't hitting the gym, and, I was just doing property, setting them up, running guests, running around like an idiot, painting walls, doing all sorts. And I smashed my head on the van door, and I blew up. I was in hospital. Doctor's like, you're very close to burnout here. You need to just take time off. And, that was kind of a clear moment for me that, you've got to look after yourselves. But the minute I then started to look after myself in exchange of running around like an idiot and put other things in place, so it bought me time back to spend on my self-care, I then found my business impact was huge. We took on 40 properties in the next 6 months because I started putting a team around me, and then we just continued to build and scale thereafter. Time out alone is very good, and something that a lot of us do not do. I pretty much, when I mean time out alone, I mean without your phone. Actually going checking in somewhere for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and just, being by yourself. If you read anything about successful billionaires and millionaires, plenty of books, your Richard Branson's, Steve Jobs, your real inspiring people, you'll feel that they always used to take themselves away without any distractions for what they call thinking space. I recently did this on one of my Dubai trips, where I went over, I had my work week, and then I had a thinking weekend, where we just phones off pretty much, and no technology, and just me and a notepad, and that was it. Just wandering around, grabbing a coffee, sitting down, looking onto the horizon, and just starting to think and get clear. The inspiration and the ideas that came out of those 3 days, so this was November last year, the stuff that came out were all pretty much put into my business plan for this year, and we've pretty much executed on nearly every single bit of it, which will tee us up for a very successful 2022. Okay, I would not have created what I created if I hadn't have just taken that time out around everything that goes on, because your mind's just all over the place. You have to slow it down. You have to really slow it down. You've got to get away from kids. You've got to get away from family. You've got to get away from everything, or it doesn't work. So I would encourage everyone to do this once a quarter as a minimum. You don't have to take 3 days. You can pretty much just do a day. Most of you probably haven't put your phone down for more than an hour in the last probably 3 years or 5 years. So, just put it down for a day. Just get rid of it, and obviously tell people what you're doing in case there are any emergencies. But have this time out. Create these pockets of time where your mind can do nothing but think creatively because it's not got anything else to think about. Okay. But in order for this to work, you also need to be in a good space, because obviously if you're in a bad space with your partner, then 9 times out of 10, you're probably just going to think about that. If you're in a bad space with your kids, or you're not feeling fit and healthy, your mind's going to wander into wrong places. You've got to get everything lined up, and then you do this, and then you will start to create. And, most successful millionaires and billionaires do this all the time. Recharge for growth, something that a lot of us don't do. And I certainly fall foul to this, but we do sometimes have to stop. My morning routine is pretty consistent and has been for the last 5 years. And, it's kind of about a 4-hour in total morning routine. And I pretty much do it every day. And I can't even tell you the last time I didn't do it. But this weekend just gone, when I was out in Dubai, I just felt like I had to stop. I just had to. There was just something telling me I had to stop. But by stopping, I actually recharged, and there was a bit of demotivation going on. There was a bit of I was just felt it coming on a bit. But when I was on that plane on the way home, I was ready, and I was ready to go again. And now I feel like I'm ready to go again, probably for another 5 years. So sometimes you do need to recharge for growth, but don't let it slip in where you then stop doing stuff. You've got to get straight back to the disciplines that have been working. You got to get straight back on the horse, and you got to get back at it active. The idea is just to fully recharge you, clear everything out, and let you go again. Because the stuff that always works, people tend to give up on if they get out the habit of it. And it takes a long time to build these habits in, and it's so quick for them to go. And, it's really important that you do recharge yourself. Quickly answer these questions. I'll come back to them at the end. I'll come back to these at the end. So, brand development and marketing. Again, I cannot stress how important this is. For me, marketing is the lifeblood of any business. Without it, I just don't think you can have a business long term. So, there's all sorts of different types of marketing that we can do, but in essence, we've just got to get it out there. What I would say, in terms of lessons learned, because when I started this, I felt like I knew marketing, but I definitely wasn't the best at it, and I definitely didn't know what I know now. But I give it a good go. But learning from what I've learned and where I've been and what's worked, what hasn't worked, what gets engagement, what doesn't get engagement. The main thing that I think we all forget about is brand development. And if I had my time again, I would have done the rebranding that I have done in the last year. I'd have done that at the beginning, and I'd have paid for it in the beginning, because, if you've got $1 million brand or £1 million brand, a brand that feels £1 million will always go further than a brand that's not very good. Someone, how many times you jump on a website and it's crap, you switch straight off, and I'm not saying go and design amazing websites, because I'd rather you were picking the phones up and ringing estate agents. But, the idea is that you need to create a brand that looks and feels like £1 million today with your business. And by doing that, you will end up in a much better place faster. Okay. Whereas a lot of people, we do it the other way around. And I fell foul of this, where we kind of don't really think about our brand. We don't think about our policies. We don't think about anything, and we just go with it. And then eventually we get big and we start getting some success. Then we start to think about brand and logos and stuff like that. And, you don't have to spend time on this. You can just get experts to do it, and then obviously, you get it back. But for me, it's something that you should have in your sites at all times. And I'm not just talking marketing here. I'm talking about, if I put it into specific serviced accommodation, the types of properties that you take on should fit your brand. So you should have a brand guideline of what you will and won't take on. At the beginning, I took everything on. I just wanted to make money. All right. And that was totally the wrong way to do it. So, you want to take on properties that are going to serve your brand for the long term. You know, so they've got to be a certain quality, they've got to be certain size, they've got to be certain locations, you know, because you know what your avatar is that you're going to attract. And if they don't meet the brand standards, then they go. I can't tell you how many people ask us to manage their properties now, and we kick them back because they don't meet the brand standards. You know, they're in the wrong locations, they're in the unsafe areas, they don't look nice, they're not willing to spend the money on the refurbishments, and therefore they don't meet the brand standards. So whilst I could take their money, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't fit into my brand standards. We have to maintain brand standards. And that's something that I learned probably about a year and a half ago, and have really spent a lot of time with my mentors, putting it together and deciding what is right for the business and what isn't. And, you know, I feel like where we're at now is a real good position. And, you know, I feel it's never nice turning business down, but at the same time, it's nice to know that we are standing by our brand standards, because I think that will serve us much better in the long run than, you know, going for a quick win. Value versus pitching. One of the biggest mistakes I see, and one of the most frustrating things that I see, is people don't want to do the value part. They just want to do the pitching part. They don't want to put in the hard yards. They just want to put a post out there and steal all the traffic, and they don't want to do the work to get there. Which is why, if any is involved in my SA WhatsApp groups, the minute anyone pitches, they just get struck out, one red card gone. Because the rules are there, and it's clear to say that do not pitch in these groups, because I don't like it. I can't condone it. If you're not adding value to someone's life, you're never, ever going to move forward at any pace, okay? So all of your branding and your marketing should just be about giving value. About 80 to 90% of your posts, 80, 90% of your content going out should be value, offering value. And then every now and then you can have a little pitch at the end of a value post. You know, we shouldn't be, you know, the amount of like content I put out there, which just gives value away, is huge compared to the amount of times that I ever ask for anything. So, you know, it's about finding that. But the more you put your value out there, the more you will attract back. Because when people are good and ready, they will come to you. Rather than the people that just drop into other people's environments, they don't offer any value at all, and they just ask for money, or they just chuck a deal in someone's face without sort of building any history, without building any value, without showing up every single day. So if you're prepared to show up every single day and do the work, trust me, it gets noticed. And they're the type of people that people want to work with, not the douchebags who want to just come and chuck a pitch post out there and not add any value and then go on to another group and do the same. You know, and you see this all the time. You see this in networking events. You see it online in social media groups. You know, you can see it all over the place where people are just very me focused. And by being that, you know, they're just not nice people to be around. You know, they're not good business people. You want to be offering value to people. So how can you offer value to people in our world? Quite simply, document your journey. Tell people what you're learning about. Offer value on how people can improve their serviced accommodation units, improve their deal sourcing, improve. I mean, there's a whole host of stuff you could talk about just over the last 48 hours that we've been through that you could teach other people, offer them value. And by offering value, you are almost being perceived a bit as an expert. And people like to work with experts. So then when you put a pitch out that says, oh, and by the way, we manage properties, guess what? Those people that might need properties managing would rather come to you than the douchebag who just puts a post out saying, hey, I've got an amazing business, please come and get your property managed by us. You know, it's a total different mindset, and the value mindset wins all the time. Sometimes it's a bit of a longer game, but I guarantee you people are watching. You know, people are watching all the time, and they will come into your world when they're good and ready. And by just offering value, they'll see the value, and when they're ready, they will come and work with you. Marketing is like nothing else in business. It's very much a commitment and a discipline. Discipline is what creates success, by the way. Nothing else. Like, nothing else. If you're disciplined enough to stay the course of the journey and put in the work that's required, by showing up every day, you will have the results that you want. Sometimes slower than maybe you want, sometimes faster, but you will have the results. But the minute you start to quit, the minute you start to not do stuff, the minute you start to not show up is the minute it all disappears. And it disappears quicker than you were building it up. So be committed to posting content every single day. Be disciplined to show up and create content. If you're going to batch content on a Sunday night for the week, show up and do it every single week without fail. If you are going to commit to posting every single day on every single channel, do it. Don't create a reason why you didn't. Don't tell yourself, oh, well, that happened, so I couldn't do that. Do it. Post it. Even if it's the last thing that you do before you go to bed. Tick the box off, move forward. That's all you can do. Just tick the box off, move forward. But be disciplined and committed to creating content and getting your value content out there on a regular basis, and you will start to see the benefits of it. No questions asked. Count the volume, not the leads. See this far too many times. I'm posting loads of content, Ryan, but I'm not getting any leads. I'm posting loads of content, but I don't feel like I'm getting any engagement. Trust me, people are watching. People are listening. People are taking note. Okay? You're surprised how many people have come out of the woodwork that I used to go to school with, asking how they can get into property or if I can help them with XYZ amount of money that they've got in the bank account. I haven't spoken to them for 20 years, but they're now interested. Why? Because they've been watching behind the scenes for quite some time on me just posting and posting and posting and posting. I've created that expert value offering. I've become an expert. They now trust me without even really digging into it. They just see I'm putting a lot of value out there that makes sense. And then when they're good and ready, they ask the question. Not asking them to come to me, they just ask the question when they're good and ready. Count the volume, not the leads. A lot of people say quality over quantity. I actually think at the beginning of the business, which pretty much all of you are based on what you said last night, you need to get volume out there. You need to start getting noticed. Like, who are you? No one really knows who you are apart from your family. You've got to start getting noticed by other people. And the minute you start getting noticed by other people is the minute that you'll start getting inbound lead flow. So get volume of stuff out there. People want to be seeing, like, Jesus Christ, there's that person again on Facebook. Jesus Christ, everywhere I go, I'm seeing them. Everywhere I go, I'm seeing them. And the way that cookies and all the magic internet works these days is you start posting on stuff and people start seeing you quite a lot. And then you become a name or a business, and then they understand what you do. And then they start seeing that the posts you're putting out there are actually good quality. They've got a lot of value in them. And when they're good and ready and need your service, then they'll come and ask for it. So you can have a little call to action on the end of every post. Might just be a simple thing. If you'd like to chat, DM me. If you agree with this, pop a comment below. Or, what do you think about this? Get an engagement post going. You can have call to actions. That's not being a douchebag and just pitching stuff. Being a douchebag and pitching stuff is very much just in your face. This is me. This is my service. You get on LinkedIn all the time. I mean, hands up, who gets them on LinkedIn? Inbox every single day. Like, hey, my business is the best in the world and we do this and we're the greatest and I know fuck all about you and I can't be bothered to learn about you either. But here you go. Here's my product shoved in your face. Delete. And that's how it works. So, don't be that douchebag. It really pisses me off, as you can probably tell, when people do this, because it's just not the right way to do marketing. Document your journey and tell everyone. This is the easiest way that you can market yourselves. Doesn't matter whether you're literally first day on the job today. You can market yourselves. You can document your journey, screenshots, selfies. I'm learning this. I'm going on my first viewing. I've just analyzed my first property. I hope I got it right. What's this big damn patch in the top of the window? Does anybody know? Document your journey. You're always ahead of somebody else, so somebody else can learn from you. But again, people are watching. Get all your profiles onto public profiles. Okay, in all your settings, on all your social media profiles, get them onto public. That means anybody can see you. Anybody can search for you. Do not be afraid of somebody seeing your content. Okay, I appreciate some of you might have jobs and you've got to, be a bit cagey, but as I say to my mentees, I would actually have the conversation with the employer and just say, listen, you're looking at getting into some investment properties and you'd like to put a few posts out around property. Is that okay? And most of them will say yes, because most of them will have properties, most of them understand. So But get out there, document your journey everywhere, videos, before and after pictures, and as you go further on, you can use that content. So make sure you're storing it somewhere. Make sure, we're constantly using content from this was me back then, this is what I've done, and this is where I'm at now. So it works all the way through that you're constantly documenting your journey. This was the first house that I bought. This is the development I'm currently doing. You can make it work for you, however, and you can document your journey. This is the investor that I've just met. I've just been at this networking event. It's just opportunity to get you out. And, I did a masterclass last year on, I think it was a 5-day challenge where we talk about the content buckets. You have 5 content buckets. You're just constantly collecting content for each of those buckets. And then when you go to your batch content day, you're just batching it up and sending it. And you've got loads of content. Because a lot of people say, I struggle for content. What do I post about? If you're constantly collecting your content as you're going through your daily, routine, your daily habits, your daily life, then you'll always have loads of content that you can batch up and then obviously post off for that week. Engage in groups daily. Something that I don't want you to waste too much time on. However, it can be, in the right groups, very powerful to become what I call a bit of an influencer, or just somebody that's getting busy. Again, just your name coming up. So it can be just answering questions, putting opinions on stuff, maybe chucking a few polls in there, asking a few questions yourselves, just being involved in, I would choose 3 groups, spend 15 minutes a day, just 5 questions in each, answer, check out, go back to your routine of daily life. That's actually, going to produce results, sales, marketing, whatever it might look like, actually going to work, things like that, going to the gym. And you will get results from that. You'll start to see that people will notice you. They'll start asking you questions. You'll start to see a few DMs flying into the back of your profiles, and you'll have some conversations with people. And you just never know where they're going to go. So it's time invested. You can do the same on Instagram, same on Facebook. You can just, comment on people's stuff, and you will start to get noticed, and you'll build your profiles up. And again, just money follows attention. So go and get yourself some attention. Can't stress that enough. Money follows attention. Go and get yourself some attention. So many places we can get attention from right now, free. All we have to do is exchange time and do it. And most of you are wasting time on your phones anyway, so you might as well do it in a good way. So, mentorships. I'll come back to that question. Mentorships. I want to talk about my experiences, because this was a game changer for me. So 5 years ago, when I was on my couch and I basically said I'm not going to my son's birthday and told my wife to piss off, and we ended up in a blazing row and blah, blah, blah. I'm sat there thinking, like, what's life coming to here? And then I'm mindlessly scrolling on Facebook, because that's all I knew how to do at that stage. And I'm not sure I was looking for, but I was looking. And this advert jumped out at me. It was this guy basically telling me, you're burning your life down. It was one of the best marketing videos I've ever seen, because it just spoke direct to me. Like, I was like, this guy is reading my brain right now, and that's good marketing. And sure enough, within, I would say 20 minutes, probably not even that, I'd paid 10 grand on a credit card that I didn't have to some guy that I didn't know from America, because he showed me a path. And that guy changed everything for me. And I'm actually gone back to him recently. He's currently my mentor as well now. And he changed everything for me, and both in terms of my life and in terms of my wealth, my health, everything. And ever since that day, I realized how powerful mentorships can be, and how powerful working with experts can be to all areas of your life. And it was an absolute game changer. And that's why I want to talk about it, because wherever you're at with your journeys right now, I want you to empower yourself with this mindset of constant education and constant development. Because if you do that, you will achieve everything you need in life, and you'll constantly feel fulfilled, because you'll always be chasing something and more than likely getting the success from the results. The momentum train is something I talk about a lot, and I see happen in a bad way quite a lot. So you're all on a momentum train right now. you've done 2 nights worth of, quite intense training, and hopefully you've picked a lot of value up from it. And, there's a lot of stuff you can put into play. Now, if this stops after tonight and you then don't do any more education, you don't expand, you will start to go backwards. You'll get off the momentum train. I talk about this all the time with deal sourcing. Even if you've got no money and you've been deal sourcing, then you run out of money because you've acquired a load of deals, never stop deal sourcing. Because once you get off that train, once you stop speaking to the agents, once you stop fueling the pipeline, it dries up and it's hard to get it going again. I see it quite often with mentorships where, even people will come work with me for whatever, 6 months, 12 months, and then they drop off. They think they've cracked it, and they then, I see them 6 months down the line and they've actually gone back over. They've stopped educating themselves, they've stopped expanding, and they're just going through the mundane day to day. Because what it takes to go from this here to this level is a certain type of knowledge. What it takes to go from this level to this level is a different type of knowledge again. This level to this level to that level. So just because you're working with somebody and you get the results that you want doesn't mean that you've cracked it. The minute you think you've cracked everything is the minute that you are heading for disaster. And in the last 5 years, I've had a period of 4 months where I've not had a mentor by my side. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most loneliest times ever. But it was in between a transition where I couldn't find the right person. But I just felt a bit like I need that support. And by just having someone fuel your mind all the time, it really pushes you on. The ROI on my investment, I do think I've spent about £250,000 in the last 5 years. It doesn't include all your little ebooks and little books and things like that. This is sort of on mentorships and consultancies. But my ROI on that is a lot greater. And, a lot of people, that is a lot of money. Even I say that, and that is a lot of money. And, you think, well, Jesus, that really is a lot of money, £250,000. If someone had told me that 6 years ago, I'd have laughed at them, said they were stupid. But, that 250K has definitely got a couple of zeros after it, and that's only just now. Think of the lifetime value that you can get from all of that. So, always think about the ROI in yourself. We're quite happy to invest in bricks and mortar, but we're not happy to invest in ourselves. And people say to me all the time, I get so many messages on TikTok and Instagram saying, I want to do this and I've got a pot of money and da-da-da, what do I do next? And I say, invest in yourself before you invest in any bricks and mortar. And they're like, what do you mean? I've got money to buy property. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know how to do it. You can go buy property in the old traditional way, leave your money stuck in it, and that'll be the only property you buy in the next 20 years. Or you could spend money invested in yourself, figure out how to do BRR, and then you could have a portfolio in the next 10 years. So there's always ways that you've got to think about things, but investing in yourself, in not only your mind, but in your health as well, is the biggest ROI that you can get. My life goal is to help 100 people become millionaires through passing on my skill sets. So that is why I do my mentorships. That is why I help people in my health and fitness business, as well as in my property business. And because I want to inspire people to be better than themselves, because when you give value to other people, you get it back. I mentioned it last night, like money for me is just a tool. And when you understand that money is just a tool, it's just a tool for exchange. And if you don't chase money, if you actually just give value to people, you will get enough money back into your bank accounts. Okay, money's just the tool. You have to have a bigger purpose than yourself. If you don't have a bigger purpose than yourself, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to struggle, or you will definitely hit a plateau and you'll not push forward. So you have to have a bigger purpose of why you're doing this, or you'll not stay the journey. You'll not stay committed. I've got up at 4:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. every single morning, pretty much for the last 5 years. There's not many people in the world could say they've done that. But that is because I've got a bigger goal than money. My goal is a lot bigger than that. If anyone would like my deal calculator, just let me know in the questions. I'll give you the link. And listen, if anyone does want to further their time with me, then jump on a call with my team and send me a direct message either on social media or in the message below, and You know, just type in the chat and let me know what you think the value of the last 2 days is on your business in pound notes. So just the value that you think it's worth. 10K, 15K. Okay. Life changing. Cool. Okay. So everyone's getting a value, right? So if you had me on your business for the next 12 months, what impact do you think you'd have versus going alone?
If you've got to this point and you haven't already subscribed and hit the notification bell, as I have a lot more content like this coming to the channel, then please do so. And just as a side note, the success of this channel and the drive to make me create more valuable content for you comes from more people subscribing and watching. So please share this video with at least one person that you know will find it valuable, or pop it in a relevant Facebook group, share it on your Instagram and tag me, Ryan K. Luke 84. Spreading the word and helping others is your entry fee, should we say, and I thank you for your support with my journey. All of you, I really appreciate it, and I hope I'm helping you. If you want a copy of the deal analyzer I've used in this video, then the link is in the description below. Now, I guarantee if you put all this into play, you will be in a total different place 12 months from now. All of the resources mentioned throughout this training session are in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, hit me up on socials, and let me know what you thought of the course, or pop it in the comments below. Best of luck, and I really wish you all the success in the world. See you on my next video.